All right. Okay.
All right.
Let's go. We're live. Holy shit. Let's go.
Yeah.
It's time. Hello, people. Welcome to the 3WC 2025 prediction stream. We are here again, and production quality upgraded too. We got new music. We got epic new graphics. Everything's looking beautiful. And we've also got a new set of people here. I'm the only one who's here from last year. I'm Shiva, and I am joined by 4 new people. Nobody from last year, which is always good. New takes, new base people, new base individuals. I'm joined by Hubba, Leiden, Nev, and Subaru. What's up, people? How's it going?
Good morning. It is always morning. Hello, guys. I've been
Good morning,
there for
nation.
qualifier stream, but I'm just gonna pretend that I'm here for the first time.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Leiden was here on the map push showcase earlier.
Yeah, great Maple Showcase, by the way. Very interesting, and always glad to be here. And so excited, looking forward to this prediction set. Quite a few teams to go through.
I cannot wait for somebody to put France way too low and Subaru will just start raging. I can't wait.
I am actually so excited to hear your takes.
Clueless.
about
I
it.
mean,
This is
okay,
clueless.
clueless, exactly. Yeah.
I am sorry in advance.
Yeah, I'm sorry as well. Please have mercy on my soul, just in case.
Clueless? No, you're spoiling it already. All right. Well, you guys, the thing is, what's funny is that everyone knows that these guys are new because they haven't put their cursors in the cursor car park, and on the sheet you can see the little colored boxes.
I've done it.
Whoops. Strict little side eye. Don't mind me there.
Yeah, I didn't get caught by that trap, but
They're not parking their cursors right now.
Yes,
but you know, it's
that
fine.
is
We'll
true.
figure it out. Who's the big purple one? Who is that? Which one is that?
I have no
Is that-
idea.
No, you can't see it.
Oh, somebody. Oh, it's got. I think it's gone now. Okay. All right. Let me just make sure. Is the stream working? All right. Cool.
All right,
So-
the stream is working.
The stream is working. So let's get started. We're doing this in alphabetical order from top to bottom, so you all can see which ones we're doing. So let's start off with Austria and Hungary. Fedora Goose, Defi, Z9A and Z10A. This is basically Austria plus Defi. And the only person who's not playing from last year is Akuma no Tenchi. Gentlemen, thoughts?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that this is a pretty solid roster. I do recognize all of these names. However, not gonna try to be a doomer on this one. I can trust them to maybe, but qualify, but with the overall competition for all of these rosters in this tournament, I feel like they fall short. And also, their roster in general, all of these players, good mechanics players, I don't really see. I think low AR is lacking a little bit, and that's an overarching theme that I noticed for most of these teams, that not all of them can play low AR, and that's definitely a weakness that a lot of teams can exploit, and Austria-Hungary is one of those teams. I do want to believe that they might have a chance, but personally, I feel like they will not be able to qualify.
Zero? You said you had some thoughts?
Yeah, I'm pretty much agree with that take. Not that it's a bad team fundamentally speaking, but we are in a 16 teams bracket, so unfortunately some of them are just not going to make the cut, and I would trust, especially Fedora Goose and Defi, to put up honorable performances as they have been reoccurring OC World Cup players for many years now. Unfortunately, yeah, 26 teams, 10 are not going to qualify, so not quite going to make the cut for me, but I'd love to be surprised. 3-digit World Cup is a tournament of surprises, so we never know. We never know what could happen.
Just to point out, I don't know why, but on the sheet, I'm trying to copy paste the flag, and it says ref #ref on the sheet instead of the flag.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's
that's
fine.
it's the formula. Yeah. I
there
can
we
put
go.
it for you.
Okay, thank you. All right, yeah, I'm okay. I mean, this team is basically anyone from Austria who wants to play plus Defi, and Vandrukus and Defi are both really, really good. Z10 and Z9A are also really good, which makes me think there's potential for qualifying.
No, wait, I
But
can't copy paste it.
And although these guys are good players, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to take away from the higher number rosters and higher level rosters that are there. It's like Defi and Fedora Goose are good, but they more match kind of a middle of the pack player in the top 12, top 6 teams. And you know, those two alone, I don't think will be enough to just barely qualify, but they might very much qualify at the very lower degree. But at the moment, we might reshuffle it, but I think it's gonna stay as a D for me, at least.
The competition for this year is crazy, so I can see.
Yeah.
With that 4-man roster, I just don't see they would require one heck of a pop-off if they want to even qualify.
I don't even think it's necessarily too big of a pop-off. Defi, within the past few months, has been really on a shred, like in 1v1 tournaments, getting like a number of like second place finishes. I think he's getting to that higher tier, but it might not be enough this go around. I could see in the future doing well, and definitely higher potential, but not going to qualify this time.
Alrighty, so it seems like everyone is seemingly pretty unanimous with D&Q, at least for now. We can do some reshuffles if we kind of come to any realizations or anything like that, so don't worry if you hesitate on your placement, but we'll move on. We're now on to Baltics. General split of Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. You've got pretty big set of changes here. You've got Hera and Sedru coming in for the first time with... Hera and Sedru second round with Basketball and Ganjanov coming in to switch for Revo, Nbob, Akatoshi's Normal, and Subanism. So still a 4-man roster like last year, just 2 unique players. They did not qualify last year, got 23rd in 2024. And for me, I mean, it's again another situation where, yeah, you've got a couple good players, but unfortunately the best ones you have are similar deal to what we mentioned last time. So I'm once again, unfortunately, going to put these guys in D and Q, at least for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your take on this one. I feel like the number of players, first of all, it did shrink considerably. You have 4 players, so it kind of hurts your overall roster depth and the skill set depth as well that you might want to have. But with that being said, these players, all of them individually, I feel like if compared to Austria-Hungary, they might be worse off, but still good players. Sadly, I do not think they will be qualifying either, but I wish them luck.
Gentlemen, who else? Anyone got any other takes?
Yeah, the number of players on the team is a big factor, and we have seen, in fact, I believe it was last year where Indonesia managed to qualify and even win a match with only 4 players. Unfortunately, I don't think the skill set depth is the same on this team as it was on Indonesia last year, for example. Sedru, very experienced players. Basically, it was pointed out in chat, it's basically Sedru and Lithuania, as the 3 other players are from Lithuania. But yeah, losing Revo, losing Akatoshi's Normal, big hits for this roster, so it's going to be another DNQ for me.
Valid. Papa, thoughts?
I'm in a similar boat. I think Sedru, similar place in as Defi as like a core, going to be in for a number of these maps, but not going to be enough to carry them to a qualification.
See how much Sedru can do.
Yeah, basically. That's what I'm thinking as well. Like, Sedru against the Wild, basically. Sedru's really, really good. Yep. I'd be really pleasantly surprised if they qualify, because Sedru is genuinely a beast. So, maybe we'll see that happen in the future. In the qualifiers. We'll see.
I mean,
anyway,
might have to like FC every map, and maybe I think there's a good chance to qualify.
So far,
go on, Subaru.
I was gonna say, so far it's a perfect agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
Not really
Sweet.
any hot takes yet, but yeah, moving on to another country. Brazil is going to be
that's
next
a big one.
And, yeah, that's a
Interesting
big
team.
one. Interesting team. A few
Who
players
wants to
got
start with
swapped
Brazil?
Oh,
Hava?
I can get us kicked off here. I think this is an interesting shout with Izzy finally hopping on the 3WC team. Izzy has been one of the harder carries on the OWC roster, at least the modern Brazil OWC roster, in my eyes. Been putting in the work there. Korean Malco, Dastik staying on the team. I do like Vito hopping on the team for some of the more gimmickier option. Of course, losing Zubs and Mystia in that effort is gonna be a hard blow. I think they're gonna be in a somewhat similar boat as last year, but just a smidge weaker. I'm gonna put them in the B tier. They're gonna hit a top 12 this time around.
Okay.
Who wants to go next?
Biden? You
All
you were
right,
eager to say
sure.
something.
I might have a little bit of a hot take here. I think that this is an amazing roster, and it's a really good mechanics roster as well. Tapping wise, high BPM wise, these players are all really good. And also the overall skill set depth is there as well. Maybe lacking in a few places, but this is a solid roster, and I think they qualify 100%. However, I do disagree with 9 to 12 placement. Might just be me though. I think actually, you know what? Maybe on a second thought, yeah, I think I'm happy with them being in B tier. I was initially thinking C tier because I was looking at the other teams and what the potential that they might have for their respective rosters. But you know what? I'm probably gonna play it safe and put them in B tier as well.
All right, chill. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. This Brazil roster, I think what gives me confidence in them is that they've got 3 really well-rounded, solid players that can play pretty much everything at a really good level. You know, Korean Malaco, Nissan, Vitaskull, and Izzy, at least to my knowledge, are all relatively versatile. I think Nissan and I believe Izzy is the other mechanical player. I might be wrong on that one. But generally, yeah, mechanics and hard rock are going to be the bread and butter for Brazil. And with Korean Malaco, Nissan, and Vitaskull, and Izzy as a 4, those 4 alone could do really, really well early to mid stage in the tournament. But just later down the line against top 6 competition, they're gonna be out flexed, out skill set depth. I think that's gonna be the big blow here for Brazil, because they are missing the players that made them practically unstoppable on DT and Hard Rock. Although they're still really good, they are definitely going to be beatable in their main strength later down the line, and that's why I think the furthest they're going to get is around top 12. You could see them maybe getting a bit higher, maybe 6th at absolute maximum, but I'm predicting this team to be around maybe 10th, maybe 8th, around there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that placement. It was well done to shout out the Izzy performance in the last OSU World Cup, as they were comfortably the strongest player on the team, in my opinion. Korean Malaco and Nissan returning 2 very experienced players in past Brazilian teams. And as it was mentioned, in last year's podcast, Brazil and 3WC are kind of like the all or nothing team, as they have been very highly ranked, have been 2nd place once, 3rd place last year, and have done like an O2 run in bracket other years. So it's very hard to call with them. This year, I would agree that mechanics Hard Rock is probably going to be some of their strongest skill sets. Losing both Subs and Mistia is a pretty tough break for their hidden roster, however. And as well, I wasn't pointing out, but losing Niash, really, really tough for late stage mechanics. So hopefully they can push through with those new players. But yeah, I would tend to agree that it's going to be pretty secure B tier for me. I don't really see them going in top 6. I think I can comfortably name 6 stronger teams on paper. However, yeah, top 12 or top 8. I could see them winning 2 matches in this tournament, but not much more. But still, very respectable team. Very, very scary names. If Korean Malaco can step up like he has done in past years, if Nissan can bring out those great accuracies on DT, if Izzy can step up as much as he did in OSU World Cup, then top 8 definitely doable.
On the right day, this team could be a real dark horse contender, but like so far everyone else has said, I think just in that top 10, I think is pretty realistic for this team.
Yeah.
And if I may add, I think it's like not that they have a like weak mechanics or Hard Rock roster, it's just that everyone else is bread and butter, it feels like, for this tournament. There's so much mechanics teams.
I agree.
There are so many mechanics
Insane.
teams.
That's the thing that makes this even harder. There aren't any
so-
like teams that are exclusive on non-mechanics.
Yeah, so if you're just like looking at so many of these teams, it's like, yeah, this is a really solid mechanics team and it would wipe the floor with so many, but they're just, every team is a mechanics team this year, so it's going to be a
Comes down
top
to who
12.
shows up. Who shows
Yeah.
up on the day.
Yeah, man, on the day. It could happen. This team could definitely be a dark horse, but for now, it seems like Beta is the consensus so far. So no crazy base takes for now. Everyone seems to be pretty unanimous, which is good. Maybe we'll get into some drama with the next team.
Oh, yeah.
We have Canada.
Yeah,
Yep.
Canada.
Peekapone, Pretty Girl, Nikki, Lenny, Fireblaze, and Pink Eye Fan, who is Muffin Slayer. So you've had a pretty big switch. You know, you've got Peekapone and Pretty Girl still sticking around. Pretty Girls are known as Vinopoly. You've got a couple really good replacements with the loss of a few really good players. Genderbender, Too Slow, Sorry, and Spicy all not being part of the Canadian team last year, who got them to top 12 in 2024. Generally a really solid roster last year. This roster, I think, raises a few more question marks than certainty. But the improvements of some of the individual players we've seen this year into the 3WC raises a few question marks with this roster, I say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. I would imagine that their main idea for this is try to make a core roster for Peekapon, Pretty Girl, Nick. I'm not really familiar with the other few players, Lenny, Fireblaze, and Big Eye Fan, and I don't know what to expect from them. But from what I could see, and I did a little bit of the research on the players, this Canada roster does raise a lot of question marks, and I feel like hopefully I'm not the only one, and it felt so wrong to do this, but I feel like Canada is gonna be a team that might not even qualify. I am sorry.
Oh.
What?
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
DNQ for
Okay.
Canada?
Yeah,
That's
it doesn't
bold.
feel right. It doesn't feel right, but
No.
yeah, it doesn't feel right, but I don't know.
No way, that's so base. What's your reasoning? I need your reasoning for this. This is crazy based.
Okay, so for reasoning, I can see that the core roster for Nick, Pretty Girl, and Peekapon, they can pop off and they can definitely make the team qualify. However, I'm not sure about the other players, because I mean, yeah, you have a 3v3 roster. It's a 3v3. You can pop off on mechanics, but for other picks, I'm not sure whether the support from the other 3 players is gonna be enough. So yeah, that's my take on this.
Okay, I'm gonna play big contrarian here. Listen, so I don't know much about Lenny and Fireblaze. However, I know quite a bit about the rest of the players. Peekapone and Nikki are very well-rounded, especially, I guess, in this stage where it's not too high skill for it to be exclusive. In my opinion, I think this team is genuinely really solid. Not as scary as they were last year. Personally, I think Sari, Spicy, Tuzla, and Genderbender generally would be the better set of players compared to last year. But Nikki coming in is really huge. I think she's going to be crazy. Pink Eye Fan, also known as Muffin Slayer, was an OWC veteran from, I believe, 2020 and 2021. Generally pretty solid, well-rounded player. Also really good at streams, mechanics, and flowing, which is a good addition with players like Nikki, with players like Peekapone. Pretty Girl, also known as Vinopoly, great aim player. Also pretty good, well-rounded, generally around the map, also around the pools, towards the start. Also, if I remember correctly, I believe this player is also pretty good at reading, which is a nice little gap to join in alongside Peekapone, which will make a good 2-man reading roster. So I think Canada generally have a good amount of depth, but it's a similar deal with Canada all the time, where it feels like they can't really break above B tier or top 12 or top 8 generally most of the time due to not really seeing a lot of ceiling. Peekapone and Nikki, though, could be the difference makers, but I don't think the rest of the supporting roster are going to be flexible enough to really push that boundary. So I actually am pretty contrarian here. I'm putting Canada in top 12, but definitely on the lower side of top 12. I think they're closer to C tier than A tier. But still a solid team, I'd say.
Just want to jump in real quick to make a minor precision that has been pointed out in chat. Pink Eye Fan is not Muffin Slayer. That's 2 different people.
Wait, what? Oh,
So-
my bad.
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, Muffin Slayer is experienced. Unfortunately, he's not on the roster this year. But otherwise, doesn't change much to your take. I think like most of those points are very valid. I'm not gonna be as optimistic as you are though on Canada, as I like to point out that three-digit World Cup is kind of the only range in which Canada has not really popped off that much. Like they're a top 4-digit World Cup team, a top OWC team, a top 5-digit World Cup team, but they've never really had consistent good results in 3WC. Top 12 last year, so winning 1 match. And yeah, with those roster changes, I'm not going to be super optimistic. I'm definitely going to see a world where they qualify, but I could see them maybe win 1 match. Peekapone, as you pointed out, a very huge player. Getting Nick on the roster also a lot of experience, lost a lot of OSU World Cup experience. So definitely, yeah.
Sorry,
if,
sorry. Go on.
If
Go
they
on,
bring
go
out
on.
the if they bring out the consistency on some of those like hidden skill sets, gimmickier skill sets, I can see a world where they could upset a team, but I don't think they're going to be one of the driving forces in this tournament.
Okay, look, you can't blame me for assuming that Pink Eye fan there was Muffin Slayer. There are 6 Pink Eye fans.
Yeah,
What the hell is this?
that's on them.
This
That's
isn't
on them.
fair. I thought
It's-
it was just one. Why is this a name
We're
collab?
back with Hiox.
It's all good,
We're
it's all
back
good.
with
In
Lolos.
that case, like I would probably also put them down to C tier, but at like the absolute very top. Absolute very top. I'm gonna move that down. But yeah, they would be the top of C tier then. I've changed my mind. And considering that everybody generally has unanimous of qualifying, we'll put that there. But Hubba, I'm sure you have thoughts on this one.
I'm going to agree with you, but I'm going to bring up a different point about this team, and it's the fact that this is an important start for the next generation of Canadian tournament players, I think. With like Ryuke likely this last OWC being his final one, and a number of other Canadian OWC players being a bit more deflated, I do think this is a good fresh start seeing all these new players hop in, and I would like to see them get their chops and warm up a little bit with this 3WC roster, and hope they perform well, all things considered. I'm hoping they win a match or a few, but I'm gonna agree with the roster here, put them in C, but hoping the best for them.
Yeah, I think this is a safe qualify team, but I think some of the more inexperienced players aren't gonna be able to really help this team too much in the bracket stage. It's gonna come down to Pickapone and Nick a lot.
And Pretty Girl as well. They have
Yeah,
a really solid
yeah.
core roster.
Yeah, no, this team is definitely not bad, definitely capable. But yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good thought. So let's move on. Now
Moving
on
on.
to Chile, another really interesting team.
That's a big one.
Yunha, Yukari Smug, Nikore, and for Jiffy, Gonza, and Suntan. Jesus, that's a rough loss, bro. For
Yeah,
Fifi,
that's a rough
Alfiu, and Oscar Gonbuena. Losing Suntan and Gonza is devastating for this team.
That is big,
I cannot
especially
lie.
Suntan.
I think Suntan alone would bump this team up an entire tier.
Oh
Yeah,
That is
I
a
agree
rough
with you.
loss. Yeah. Who's got thoughts? Anyone? Any base individuals here?
If I may, I've got some interesting thoughts on this one. So, yeah, as you mentioned, losing especially Gonza and Suntan, a huge loss for this roster. Suntan, especially in this year's OSU World Cup, or I mean last year's OSU World Cup, really like stepped up as one of the main carries. Like, we're talking about a player who like stepped up there with like Intercamping and Matthew, so huge player to lose. However, I'd like to point out also that Nikore was one of the most dominant rookies of this edition of the OSU World Cup and has been immensely improving. And Yukari Smug also had a pretty good showing last year. Yunha is, of course, a very consistent player, well known now in the Chilean scene, so I definitely think it's going to be a drop below. Last year, they especially had a very solid early stage, taking 4 points off of the C2 United States team, and then getting the upset win against Team Russia. So I don't expect them to replicate that kind of success, but I definitely still see a world where they qualify. I don't think they drop that bad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think losing Suntan is honestly devastating. You lose so much versatility and reliability. You know, it's like Germany not having Kriller anymore. Like, yeah, you've got good players. You still have a solid team, but you are missing something huge here. And I think even losing Gonza as well takes away so much mechanics from your team as well. You've got Yunha and Nikore, who are both really good on that mechanics. If you had Gonza on that, that would be a scary ass early stage mechanics team. That would probably be enough to bump you pretty far and contest some of the way better teams. But that's not to say this team is really weak. Alfiu and Yukari Smug are both really solid. I remember you mentioning earlier Yukari Smug was a huge up-and-coming player for Chile, who could be hugely improving and do really good for this team. Alfiu is also really good, decently well-rounded, but particularly good on the reading. So he's going to be a good free mod player for Chile. With Yunha on that as well, going to be a pretty versatile free mod team. Solid normal team too. I'm still going to put Chile in the B tier, but for me it's very close. Similar as to Canada. I changed my mind with Canada. I put Canada also very low. But I've both of them would probably be the bottom B tier for me.
Okay, there is a reason why I was decided to be left for last. Hear me out. Okay, so
Don't put DNQ.
I'm sorry.
Hell no.
I'm not
What?
joking.
What is
This
wrong
might
with
be a
you,
really hot take,
man?
but, dude. I'm sorry, but okay. So the reasoning for this one. All right. So the Chilean roster, I can see the world where they qualify as well as the Canadian roster, but if they qualify, they will be on the lower seed edge, somewhere around 15 to 16, and Chile is very close to qualifying, and I would be happy to see them qualify. However, there are a few teams on this list that I think that improved quite a lot, and I think they have a better chance of qualifying than Chile. So that's the main reason why I put Chile on D and Q. This is a really hot take, and it felt wrong again. Initially, I had them on 13 to 16, but then looking at other teams, I thought like, okay, you know what? I will drop a lot of hot takes today, so it's probably D and Q for me.
I am gonna be so blown away to see which teams you've put above both Canada and Chile.
Yeah, kind of
That's
curious to see that.
crazy.
Okay.
Before we move on, I'd like to point out that while they are losing like Suntan and Gonza, right, they're also gaining Alfu, who was literally deemed worthy to replace TFGE in their Osu World Cup team.
Yes, that's true.
So Alfu is a huge win for this roster, combined to the fact that someone like Nikora could definitely fill some of those hidden skill sets that Alfu is definitely going to step in for. So yeah, I don't think they dropped that bad, despite losing Suntan.
That Santan and Gonza loss, just I feel like that's a huge
Right.
loss, and I can't put them any higher than qualifying team.
You know what?
Valid,
Looking back
valid.
at it, I'm probably gonna back down.
this guy.
I'm probably gonna back down. I'm looking
Depends
back
how-
at it. Nah. I'm probably backing down. I'm sorry.
If
Hopping
I
the
may
fence
add
this
real
time.
quick.
Oh, look, he's seen all the flame on chat and he's backing down.
No.
I expected better from you.
No.
Wait.
It's not that. It's not that. No.
Okay. Alrighty.
We got
Alright,
a lot of
so,
teams to go, so
Any
we better move on.
Any more thoughts from anybody else, or shall we move on?
We can move on.
I think we're good.
All good? Alright, sweet. Let's move on to Finland. My favorite country. The country that I put in top 6 last year because I love Finland. Alad Amasetic Chu, Beer Loving Gnome, Isak and Tableti. Tremendous losses though. Desku, Zepe, and Nev.
That's
not on
rough.
the team anymore. You have Isak and Tableti, who are both OWC players, who are both pretty solid. Beer Loving Gnome, I know nothing about. I'm sorry. But these 3 losses are tremendous. And Nev, I think you're best to go first, considering you are one of the players and not on the team this year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So losing out the 2 players, I think 2 of the biggest losses by far is Detsku and Xepe. Like those guys are nuts.
Yeah.
Especially Detsku for those early round matches. Like he's just all around crazy, and he has good consistency. But he's being replaced by players like Tableti. He is really on the rise right now on the Finnish side. And Beer Loving Gnome, who is HHA, probably more recognizable by people. And Isaac coming in just to round out the aim mechanics a bit. And while I might be dropping out, I think I was only ever good for reading maps, and I think Tabuleti and Alert can do that just fine. And you're just gonna have Amasetic play every map. This is a qualifying C tier.
I agree. I think what you said there is good enough. Is probably the same as what I would say. Alan Amasetic is still really solid. Isak and Tableti are good players. Desku and Zepe, though, is a big enough loss to make this team not as threatening as I had. Desku and Zepe practically played everything to a really, really good level up until the mid-game of the tournament, which is why I put them so high. But yeah, I'm going to be moving down to C. Yeah, I think they qualify. I think they're really good.
I think you guys are underestimating Finland a little bit. I think they have the capabilities to cook. They're definitely on the lower end when it comes to like the top 12 teams. I can see them on the top 16. But I don't know, I just want to believe in Finland because yeah, those losses are devastating and they're massive. But I still believe that Finland is not to be underestimated in any regard. Like they are scary still on a lot of skill sets. So
This is how Finland can still win. Here we
Definitely.
go again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of see where Lighting is coming from regarding Finland's roster. Not gonna go as far as putting them in B tier, but if we took like my personal list, I definitely think they could beat both Chile and Canada. But
Yeah.
I don't see them beating a team like Brazil, nor some of the other teams I'm gonna put in B tier. So I'm gonna stick them in C tier for now. But definitely not a DNQ team. Capable
I
players,
agree.
experienced players, and even like we talked about the newcomers, but the returning players, most notably Eliard and Amasetic, are very, very consistent.
Also,
Alright.
yeah. Coming back, we did forget China.
We
So
did. I was about to say, my bad, since I'm the one doing
Yeah, I
the
was wondering,
combined
but
stuff. My bad, bro.
It's
it's
all
all
good,
good,
it's all
all
good.
good, all
It's
good.
time
Don't
for
worry.
China.
We're moving on to
Alright.
China.
David Q2, Ludo Fox, Mitzi, and Crystal. Practically nothing changed except the best player in the country ever is joining the team. Guys, what are your thoughts on this one? Because this could be really funny. What are your thoughts?
I feel like this is a solid roster. It's a four-team roster, but you have Crystal to it. If you had Milk Tea on that one, that would have been like an A tier team but with the addition of Crystal and obviously DBQ also doing really good, I feel like China can pop off and can show a pretty significant result. For me personally, I feel like I might be overestimating them, but knowing how all good and how all-rounded all these players are, because Crystal and DBQ, sure, they might have a more of a focus on non-mechanics, especially Crystal, but I think that China has what it takes to get into top 12.
Ooh, top 12. I think that's a high one, but something that's reasonable, I'd say. I had them bordering on top 12, but I eventually decided to put them in the qualifying tier. I mean, I agree with Linus, basically what you said. I definitely think this collective four-man roster is going to qualify, especially with Crystal around. Going from three solid, like honestly, like decently good Chinese players, or OWC veterans, adding literally the best player in your team. You know, the only one you think it can make this perfect is having Milk Tea on, but it really it doesn't change the fact that this team's good. It's a good team. One of the very few four-man rosters that 100% are good enough to qualify, very much good enough to qualify. And although I put them in C tier, I would not be surprised at all to see them in B tier and push through something miraculous, because Mid-C, David Q2, and Crystal as a three-man squad, really versatile, and Ludo Fox has improved a lot, made some solid improvements with China last year to make them a really formidable mechanics team. You know, add in Mid-C and David Q2 on top of that, I mean, this team has some really good two-man rosters for loads of skill sets. So I'm looking forward to seeing what China can pull off, and I really hope I get to see some magic from them in the bracket stage, because this could be a really, really fun team to watch. I can't lie.
Yeah, I'm gonna get so much hate for this.
No.
I hesitated a lot.
DBQ.
I hesitated a lot with this
Ruh-roh.
Chinese team. I was like bordering qualifying or not, but I don't know. Like four-man rosters can work in three-digit World Cup, but when I look at how the skill sets clash in this four-man roster, I'm kind of concerned on some skill sets about China's ability to perform enough to be able to qualify. So I might come back on this decision. I have them in DNQ so far, but I think they're like in that range of like either being the last one to qualify or the first one to not make it. And as Shiba pointed out, Crystal is a huge addition. Last year it was only 3 players, and they, I believe, did not even play the qualifiers. So Crystal is their best current player, arguably one of their best players of all time. Huge tournament experience. Crystal and David have been they have been there for a while. They've been part of the team that was second in 2022, so a lot of experience when it comes to 3WC map pools. But I don't know, with the teams that are coming up, I just don't think a 4-man roster cuts it. But then again, we might rediscuss this at the end of the podcast, so I might come back on this. But I'm not very enthusiastic for this team, and it really breaks my heart because China is one of my favorite teams in three-digit World Cup history.
It's a fair critique. It's a fair critique. I think both optimists and pessimists on this team make sense. You know, 4-man roster's a 4-man roster, fair.
Yeah.
but you also see the explosive potential on everyone on this team. It really, I think for me, what comes as the biggest question is whether or not Ludo, Fox, and Mitzi can pull the stops on their non-dominant skill sets to make up for the third player syndrome they might have. If they do that, then they can make top 12. If they can be okay, they qualify. If they can't pull it off at all and can't back up David and Crystal, they're not going to qualify. It's a big question mark with this one, but I think C tier combined seems to be the fair consensus here. Anybody else have any other closing thoughts before we move? No? None?
think-
Probably
I
not.
think we're
Yeah.
good.
But
Let's fucking
imagine
go.
what if Milk Tea was in this roster? That would have been a power.
If Milk Tea was on this
Let's-
roster, I would
Uh,
easily put this top 12.
Yeah, let me
Easily.
just
A
say,
tier.
if they
I'll
get
put A
Milk
tier.
Tea, if they get Milk Tea, they're A tier. If they get like Milk Tea and Kurumi, they're like S tier.
Okay, I wouldn't say
potential.
First,
S tier potential. Yeah, S tier potential.
Maybe.
I wouldn't say 100%, but potential.
Yeah,
yes,
probably
definitely.
potential. Yeah, I agree.
Um, but
uh,
let's move on, shall we? So listen, Subaru spoke the most about China, and we're going to be having him speak a lot more because next up we have France. Here we go.
Actually,
This is
uh,
probably one of the craziest roster swaps I've ever seen. What the hell is this?
I
What is
actually
going
have.
on?
So do you want me to go like first or last? Because both could be fun.
Ooh.
Both could
Okay,
be
you know
fun.
what? You know what? We'll
Go
have
first.
Subaru pull that actually, and we'll have everyone else go first.
Yeah, let's go.
Anybody want
okay,
to start?
okay.
Does
Can I
anybody
go
want to
first?
start? Does anybody want to start?
I think the loss
I'll
of
go.
Mbappe is instant not qualify. It's just a fire name.
Yeah, no Mbappe,
man.
Musty being gone, sent to the playtester realm, no Thunder. This is a sad team. I do think their mechanics are significantly buffed. A lot of those players, not particularly known as super like specialists, but I think again, buffed mechanics is not enough with this specific 3WC. You need a little bit more gimmick on board, and every team is a mechanics team here, and not qualifying for me, unfortunately. France.
I'm in heavy agreement. I mean, listen, Hivkill is a good player and definitely performed really well in last year's 3WC. He was a core third player to really back up the other members of the team. However, he alone can really not make up for this, unfortunately. Jap White is a good mechanical player, but the rest of these players have little, if not zero, successful tournament experience from what I have seen. I don't see any badges. I haven't seen anything from my notes. So this is, first off, yes, a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of potential where these guys could do really well, but these losses are so significant. And the fact that with the roster they had last year, they could only get to top 16 makes me really think, I think this is one of the few countries with such strong name value where they actually just don't qualify.
Yeah.
Definitely the top of don't qualify. Actually, not even that. I actually don't think so. I actually think there are other teams in DNQ, at least for me, that would probably do stronger than France, at least in my mind. But you know, that's what I think. Anybody else have any thoughts before Subaru like out nerds everyone and just
Yeah,
tells us
when I hear the
I
Erm,
agree
actually.
a lot with all of these because, first of all, yeah, the team barely qualified last year. You've mirrored my thoughts on this one, and you also lose star players. Musty, Mbappe, Araki. These changes, of course, you might give the benefit of the doubt to the newcomers, and their eyes, they must be lit, and they're motivated. But even with that, I like getting and keeping in mind the result that they had last year. I feel like France, they will not be able to qualify this time around.
okay.
All right.
Subaru, it's time for you to nerd everyone out and tell us why. Here's how France can win 3WC.
Okay, so here's where I dropped the bomb on you guys. In my humble opinion, Musty is the only non-upgrade in this roster. Switching out Ryzen, Thunder, Araki, and Mbappe are all upgrades when you compare to players like Lonk, Satsuki, Tuya, Wum, Jap White. The reasoning behind me saying this is that let's do a little bit of stats. Yeah, those names are all well known. They were like top French players for years, right? When Thunder played last year in 3WC, this was his first tournament in 2 years. When Ryzen played, it was his first tournament in 3 years. When Mbappe or Justman played, it was his first tournament in about like 6 months after playing OWC or French tournament. And yeah, these players were all either rusty or not motivated or simply not adapted and ready to play this kind of tournament. And I know that both the motivation factor and the rust factor were massively in France's disadvantage for last year's tournament, which explains their very poor performance of barely qualifying and then getting swept both times. This year, we're keeping Hifkill, who was by far the most active player out of the 6. Losing Musty is unfortunate, as he is the current title holder for the French Championship. So Musty is still, like, if he had wanted to play, he definitely would have made the cut, but motivational issues are part of why he doesn't play this year, and I totally respect that because he would rather leave his spot for someone who is more motivated and more willing to try on these map pools. And if you look at the players who are making the team this year, as we basically only talked about the losses, Satsuki was 4th in the French tournament and had to forfeit his match against MyJD, so he could have made the top 3 on a good performance. Lonk is very, very disciplined, has major goals for this year of making the 3-digit, 4-digit, and Osu World Cup team for France. Tuya has been up and coming these past few years and is very active, very versatile, good hard rock player, and good mechanics player in general. So yeah, all of these players are basically more disciplined and more motivated than the ones that are leaving, and that's the factor that's making me say that France will in fact qualify. And I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but I do think they could win a match this year. And I think that basically they come in this tournament and we are looking kind of like what was said about Canada for the future players of like the next generation of French players for the future OSU World Cup teams. So basically that's going to be the goal for this French team, is get in there, get some experience, and show what they're capable of, because nobody expects anything from them. And I think that's perfect, because all these years people have been expecting from those big names in France, and every single year it's been more or less a disappointment, as I think nobody will disagree with me. And it's been hard for me to watch, honestly. But yeah, I'm very hopeful for this roster. All of these new players have immense potential in their respective skill sets, and they're very disciplined, most of them, and very motivated. And Hifkill is still there to lead them, so yeah, I definitely believe in the potential of our players, and it's gonna be very interesting to watch.
Okay, I respect your knowledge on that. I respect that for sure. Yeah, that is the big thing, is that Subaru knows these players more than anybody, and for me, I tried to take a look at them, and for me, a lot of unknowns, a lot of people that I don't know about, but yeah, I respect what Subaru thinks.
I the best.
I respect
so
that.
France might become the ultimate dark horse.
Keep an eye on this team.
Honestly, I would have been surprised if anybody else than me put them above like DNQ, because that's really what I expect, is that nobody knows these players outside of like the French scene. So
yeah,
it's like they don't have the usual expectations, and I think that's perfect for them because they can show what they're made of, and I think they really have immense potential.
Nice, sweet. Just before we switch, real quick, please tell me that Musty's playing OWC next year. We need 15 years. We need 15 years.
15.
Him not making 3WC is scary. I'm scared.
I got one
please,
more in me.
Please tell me he's gonna be OWC next year. I'm begging.
Like I said, he won the French tournament a few months ago, and I mean he's still like semi-active on the game. So I think it's definitely just a motivational thing for this year's 3WC, and the chance is here to see him. I don't know. It really depends if he's motivated or not. But if he is motivated, he will put in the effort.
Musty 15 years, bro. That guy needs a badge for how much he's played WC. That's
technically
crazy.
Musty is still here for this 3WC. He's on the playtester team.
Yeah, he's playtesting.
So
Yeah. True.
technically, he did not leave. So yeah.
Let's hope. All right.
Yeah. Let's move on. Sorry about the yap.
Next to now that we've had the big yap one. Next to an interesting team, Germany. Flay, Krilla, and Serbia Trucker sticking around, also known as Ronnie Sunny, second round for Germany. They got top 8 last year, swapping Anroy's Pair and Sharp, which is a big loss, for Burkastle, 120 Cell, and a big gain in Tim Kakner, who was a huge player for that OWC team last year. This is a really good roster, boys. This is a really good roster.
Burkastle being semi, I believe.
Certainly. All of these additions, I think most of these additions are an upgrade, and Tim Kakner is one of the biggest upgrades in general for this roster. And with that in mind, you have star players like Kriller on this, and I feel like this team is really stacked and can have a potential to make it into S tier. With that being said, though, I feel like I'm gonna be a little more conservative with that. And yes, I can see them getting higher. They might go higher, but I feel like I'm gonna place them on A tier.
That sounds good. Yeah, I mean, it feels like this is a really obvious call with this team. I mean, Timcachner was a star player for 2023. And despite losing Shark, which was a good kind of hidden backup for Krilla, you've still got Flay. And I don't know Semi's skill set, I believe, but I mean, still having that two-man core of hidden players is going to be good enough for that third place to not really kick in. Krilla is Krilla, arguably one of, if not the best players in this tournament. He is absurdly good, able to 1v3. I feel like he could carry some of the lowest teams in this tournament to very high heights alone. So having Timcachner come in on top of that with Flay, Runny Sunny still sticking around, with Semi coming in, it's good. This is a good team. You know, even though you lose Shark and Anroyes and Pear, still a good roster, and I think Germany get an easy A tier. Any thoughts on anybody else? Any other ideas? Anyone who wants to be a little based and devious, or are we staying unanimous A tier here?
I think it's
I mean, unanimous A tier, but I will say top 4 at least. Like,
Top 3
I
at
agree.
least.
top
I agree.
3. Like, you're looking at like the hidden roster of Kriller, Semi, and probably Timcachner third. You're looking at the speed roster of Serbia Trucker, Flay, 120 Cell. Hard Rock roster, anything with Kriller in for everything that isn't like straight tapping. This Germany team is so good everywhere they go, and definitely one to look out for.
Sounds good. Good.
I'm gonna lowball that a little bit. So of course I'm sticking them in A tier, as we are all, but I would not be as optimistic to call them top 3. Maybe top 3 contender, but I definitely see them more like placing around top 6, top 4. I definitely could name 3 teams I would see placing higher than Germany on paper. However, I think pretty much everything has been said. Kriller is like top 3 players in this tournament, like undebatably. He's one of the best players in the tournament, one of the best players in the world. You would see Kriller like popping off in tournaments like Corsair's Close, so very high level player.
Yeah.
Timcachner, I agree, is a very good addition, but I want to point out that as Timcachner is a great addition, Shark is a pretty big loss, and as well as Pear. So I think they're like roughly the same as last year, not that much of an upgrade. And last year they placed top 6, so
Yeah.
top 6 or 7-8 actually, 7-8.
I actually think top 5, top 6 for me is actually where I'd expect Germany to place. That's kind of the lowest ball I will roll with this one. There is potential for top 4, top 3. I don't think is going to happen. As much as I love Krilla and Timcachner, these are still a really good team though. So I look forward to what Germany can do. They're always a scary ass team. So I look forward to that. Let's move on to another team now with Greece coming in. They did not play in 2024, so they have a full new roster. A lot of OWC players. Puyu, Naked, Bobman, Manster, and their star player, who everyone knows, Mr. Jack Pax, who is probably one of the biggest hopes for this team to qualify. However, I'm not very optimistic, I'm afraid. Anybody else feeling a bit optimistic about Greece?
I'm not really feeling that optimistic either. Sorry, Subaru.
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
All right. So, okay, sure. So as much as I love Jackpax and as much as I love Puyu, these 2 players are 2 players that you need to look out for when it comes, and they can make a difference, and they might make the team qualify. I do mirror Shiba's opinion on this. I'm not that optimistic for them qualifying. Jackpax and Puyu, if they have a good day, there is an opportunity and there is a way for them to qualify. But personally, I think it's a DNQ.
Nev, Hubba, thoughts?
I agreed with DNQ until I saw this quals pool and saw it was the Jack Pax show. Like, this quals pool favors Greece so heavily, like in skill set. Like, I think that they might qualify just based off of like how this quals pool goes. So I'm rooting for you, Jack Pax. You got this, pal.
It's just 16
Let's
teams
go.
qualifying. It's always so hard. I'm gonna put them in not qualify and not be surprised when they qualify.
It's tough. I think Greece are probably one of the most likely teams in my DNQ to qualify, if not the most likely, with Jack Pax and Puyu alone. Those players are 2 really strong players that I particularly remember. And the rest of these players have improved quite a bit. I'm pretty sure they placed quite a bit higher in last year's OWC as well, despite not qualifying, still improving. So I see potential. I think Greece are probably one of the most likely teams in DNQ to qualify. But at the moment, at least for now, we might change some things. I'm still going to stick them in DNQ. And as for the most part, that is the same with everybody else. We're going to be putting them in the combined there as well. But also, look, Greece, let's hope they make it any further. Do you have any closing thoughts real quick, Subaru, before we switch?
Yeah. Before we move on, I just want to say that I had Jackpacks in the Discord call last night, and I'm officially forgiven by him to put him in the DNQ. Like, I have the authorization, like the official authorization. So we're all good with putting Greece in DNQ. Sorry, Jackpack.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
The agreement was made.
Let's switch now to Iberia, which, okay, I could be wrong, but I believe this is a mix between Spain and Portugal.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It is.
Spain and
yes.
Portugal. Aleph, Manolo, and joining in with the new rosters is Omegi, Rafamat, Tony1, and Escrupolillo, swapping Ama, Aminovia, and Antonio. So losing Antonio already kind of huge, kind of giant. Already had pretty low hopes for this team, sadly. And I, in that way, unfortunately, would probably also put this team in DNQ. Similar idea with Greece, at least for me. Guys, what do you think?
I
Aleph
agree
is sick.
once again, because even though this team has a lot of OWC players in Spain, solidified themselves as the team that consistently qualifies now, and hopefully they will win a match. They did win a match, right? Last OWC, I forgot already.
They did not win a
They
match.
lost on tiebreaker.
They won 2 matches. They won 2 mechanics maps against Chile, and then they took Finland to tiebreaker.
Yeah, okay.
But
I
that
remember
was, you have to take note, that was Spain alone, and that was with huge influence from Creator, who is not on this team, and Antonio, who
Yeah.
is also not on this team.
Exactly, and with that, like, even though Spain does consistently qualify for OWCs, this roster is a bit of a downgrade compared to the previous years, and even then they did not qualify last year. With that being said, yeah, I think this is sort of a Greece situation, and I would put them on DNQ as well.
If I may nuance a little bit the DNQ, I do follow you on the DNQ reasoning, but I definitely think out of the teams I have in DNQ, they're one of the most likely to surprise me and qualify, because 2 things is, one, they now have 6 players, which for roster depth is always an improvement, and second, gaining Escrupulio is a very big upgrade, as he was one of the 4 or 5 core roster members for the Spain OWC team,
That's
up
true.
there with Aleph, Manolo, Antonio, and Creator. So very huge player to gain. So while I do follow you on the DNQ, I wouldn't be completely surprised to see them scratch a top 16 place.
Like a Siege
You know
17
what?
from qualifiers.
I did not notice that
Yeah.
Escrupulo is new to this roster, so yeah, this is not a downgrade. With Escrupulo, this is more of an upgrade, but it's still not enough.
Okay, that seems to be the general consensus with Iberia, so let's put them into DNQ. Of course, we can... Oh, whoops, wrong one, my bad. Of course, we can switch that up at some point in the future, but for now we'll leave them there. So let's move on with the next team, which is... Oh god, I'm not going to be very good at pronouncing this. I'm just going to do the Spanglish. Imperio, Rio Platense, Rebo, Billmilk, Seong, Richo, Kazuke, and Visho by like. Kazuke and Visho by like, swapping in for Lexalia and Selena. I believe this is a hybrid of Uruguay and Argentina. Am
It
I
is.
correct?
Yes, it is. It is.
Decent roster, but again, similar deal. I think you've got some really good players, but the collective and the general group doesn't really seem that promising to me. This is another bordering DNQ, if DNQ for me. What are your thoughts, people?
I'm a little bit more optimistic. Of course, I'll reorganize this later because I know you can technically only have 4 teams in the C tier, but I'm gonna slap them in C for now. I think they can scrap a place in that top 16. Rebo, Bomilk, very experienced players. Rico, very good player, and also has been now, I believe, for 2 years part of the Argentinian OSU World Cup roster. I think that losing Lexalia hurts a little bit, and they barely didn't qualify last year. But it's definitely one of those potential rosters. So I want to be optimistic for this one.
I agree with Subaru on the optimistic side. This team is kind of stacked on mechanics, and tapping wise, I feel like they can pop off and surprise. I am feeling really optimistic when it comes to this roster, and yeah, I really like this, honestly. I feel like they can qualify.
I'm channeling the pop off and they qualify.
Okay, I like it. Yeah,
Um,
I hadn't actually made a final decision with this team. Was really unsure. I kind of have this team in similar regard to Iberia, but I feel like looking at this team, they do look good on mechanics, but not really versatile enough on anything else. And I see Iberia being a bit more well-rounded overall. So if I was to put Iberia in DNQ, I don't think Imperial would be any higher either. I'd probably put Iberia more likely to be above. So I'm gonna put them in DNQ. But again, another situation where they're quite close. I probably some of them match them in regard to Greece, and I put Iberia just slightly higher.
Mhm. I'm always going to be more privy to more well-rounded teams, and this just isn't going to be following that line of thought. So DNQ for me as well.
Yeah, I mean, we
Alright,
can
sounds
always
good.
reorganize those lists at the end, right? So it's
Yeah.
not like definitive,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would see them in that range of like either seed 16, 17.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna
Moving
leave them in
on.
D and Q for now. But we'll reshuffle them later. It seems like it'd be a clash between C and D, but we'll leave that as is for now. So let's move on to the next team, which will be Indonesia. Now we're going into some big boys here.
That is a big boy, for sure.
This is a scary
Whoa.
ass team. Don't let the name changes for you. GNX is Dido and Norlane is Dellen. This is a freaky Indonesia team. You've got Dido, Dellen, Mindfrost ID, I think Yukari, I think his name is, VTuber Voice ASMR. I don't know why you'd out yourself with that name, bro.
Yeah.
Hakui Koyori and Styx. This is a really, really good team. I cannot lie to you. This is like high top of B tier or A tier, at least for
Oh,
me.
100%. This team, it's in comparison to the Imperial Rio Platins, it's more of a well-rounded roster. These players, all of them, are really good, and I feel like they don't quite make it into A tier for me, but this is a high B tier team.
Anyone else? Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna get a bit of hate for that because I'm usually very harsh with Indonesia. So of course, I mean, obviously at least B tier for me. Like you look at the names, it is a scary roster, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that they're like contender for A tier as people give France a hard time when it comes to underperforming, but I think Indonesia kind of steals the cake from us. Like when it comes to OC World Cup performances, every year people call those like insane placements, like top 6, top 8, and like they just freshly came out of a top 24 finish. So I feel like those players are all individually extremely good. Like you mentioned, Dido, Dellen, Mindfrost ID, also a huge player. Hakui Koyori is also known as Vino, has been there for years, super consistent. So the names are definitely very scary, but they kind of have yet to conquer me when it comes to like regular performances when they play all together. So I don't want to be too optimistic and put them in A tier, even though I definitely believe that on a good run they could make it to the top 6. So I'm gonna stick them. I think they're in like the top 8, top 12 range, but I definitely would like to see them go further than I expect to in this tournament.
Okay. I mean, I actually kind of agree with you, Subaru, but I actually only really agree with you for OWC standards. I feel like for some weird reason, Indonesia, they always get themselves overhyped because they do well in 3WC and then end up disappointing pretty massively in OWC. 3WC is a different realm in my mind, different pooling, different styles, different philosophies with the players who want to play. And in my mind, I think Indo are very capable of making it. And I think although they're very close to B tier, I'm locking them into A tier. Very, very
That's
bottom A tier.
respectful.
They are the last team for A tier, at least in
That's
my
fair.
opinion.
I
This
see, I
team,
see.
super well-rounded, and with Dido and Dellen all on the same team, team. Hakui Kyori and Styx, really good players as well. I think Styx Styx did not play last year. He was an OWC rookie last year and did, honestly, really solid from what I remember. I feel like he was actually one of the better players last year.
Yeah.
He had a pretty good showing.
With that, plus their track record with 3WC, I'm sticking them into A tier. Very much potential, I think.
Yeah,
Also,
it's
something
true.
to note.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So something to know is that they had 4 players last year. This time their roster is a lot bigger, and it does add a lot to the skill set depth. Hakui Kyori and Styx, even though Styx, yes, he did do really good on OWC team. Not really that familiar with Hakui Kyori, but still, this roster, first of all, I think that's an improvement in general. And also, with the OWC take, I also agree Shiba, because they have really high expectations for OWC, and they might be like really nervous. That's why they tend to underperform. With this one though, with 3WC, I feel like this is Indonesia's playground. And with that in mind, I can see why Shiba can put them on A tier. I'm just gonna be a little more safe and put them on high B tier instead.
I only have one extra thing to add, and it's that I miss Krez. Bring that guy back, please. But Indonesia, you
Real.
got it locked in. You got it locked in. But like, Krez, where are you, man? Indo needs you.
Yeah, just to bounce back real quick on what was said about them only being like 4 players last year. To give them credit, they got top 8 with 4 players last year. That means winning 2 matches. That's a pretty strong showing. So yeah, I can understand the hyping for top 6. I think the difference maker is going to be that extra carry player. Like, for example, Germany has Kriller, and some of the later teams will have like 1 or 2 players to mention that are really going to step up in the late stages. That maybe Indonesia is lacking one of these, in my opinion, at least.
All right, sounds good. So considering most have put them in the B tier, we'll put them in the unanimous B tier for now. But yeah, definitely a really good team. A lot of potential to make A tier. Next team now coming up, we have Japan. Haga, Yukin, and YMD, also known as Ryoshi, sticking around from last year with a couple devastating losses and some good returns here. Konkon Kinokon out for this year, but coming in for Tichu was an equally incredibly good player. Yama Darkness, aka Blue, coming out for Furamin, and Stella coming in for Nobody. A 5-man roster here for Japan. What are your thoughts, people?
I'm not very optimistic for this roster. They placed bottom 5 last year, which was a massive surprise for me, because when you looked at the names, of course, Haga, Yukin, YMD being Ryoshi, and then, as you mentioned, Konkon, very, very solid player, Yama Darkness as well. So, placing bottom 5 with 6 players, and you lose one of them, you gain Tichi, but the competition is only getting tougher, so I really don't have high hopes for Japan, unfortunately, this year.
And the fact that they didn't qualify with that last year's roster just doesn't give me any hope of putting them into a qualifying seed.
And they weren't even close.
Yeah, 26.
Yeah, Tichi, I mean, as much as I respect Tichi and how great of a player he is, I don't think he will be able to make a difference this time around. Especially considering that Konkon Kinokon was also a fantastic player for the Japan roster last year. So this is maybe an improvement, but it's not enough for Japan to qualify.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this roster on paper and you think there's no way they don't qualify, right? But then, you know, you look at their results and you think, damn, like, you know, what happened, man? You know, I remember this team in 2023 being a lot more exciting to see, but unfortunately now they're not really as performing well as I hoped they would, and that's maybe a bit more pessimistic. I was bordering on C tier for this team. I thought, you know, if there was any team bordering on D tier that could get C tier, probably was Japan. But I'm going to, for now, stick with D tier for D and Q, and as that has been unanimous with everybody else, we'll stick that to D and Q as well. But I think Japan, one of the more likely teams to qualify, I would say, upper echelon of D and Q. But yeah, very much a team where TG's return does not, unfortunately, make this enough, I don't think. Yeah. So we're going to move on now. We're going to be going to Norway now. So their main core pretty much staying the same. Melva, Penguinzi, Nanalini, and Virak still sticking around for Norway, with Itkevzi and Fiel coming out for this year for Honda and Chaotic Turtle. I think Fiel is a notable loss here for this team, but Honda coming in is a notable gain for this team. Makes Norway even more scary on mechanics than they already were. But that is being said, considering how many teams are really good on mechanics, how high can Norway really go this year?
I
Yeah,
have a lot to
especially.
say.
Yeah, they didn't qualify last year as well with that good of a roster for mechanics. Sure, Hunder is a great addition, but with that being said, even though this is maybe a slight improvement, I don't think it's enough yet again. This is a roster that might qualify. It might be close, but I don't think it's there yet. Personally, I will probably put them on GNQ.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else got any thoughts?
Pretty much agree with the DNQ. In that close range of having a shot to qualify, like these players are very solid, especially Hunder, the very good addition. As it is mentioned in chat that Hunder is going to be in Poland during qualifiers, apparently mentioned by Paper Candle, who's also on the team. So
He's going to be He's going to be in Cal 3, I believe. Yeah.
yeah, so not very reassuring for this roster, unfortunately. Those players are well known and have been all around for years, but here's the thing is that they're solid players, but when you compare to the massive changes and reshuffles that other teams are going through, and are probably going to bump them up the list a little bit, I think Norway is lacking some of that, either roster depth or just new blood to kick them up an extra notch. So I think if they qualify, I won't be too surprised, but I'm gonna stick them in DNQ for now.
Okay, so first and foremost, I heard a wild Hubba say before Leiden spoke, I have a lot to say, and I also see a wild Norway B tier from Hubba. what's your base take, my friend? What's
He's
your base
locked
I
take?
in.
have a lot to say.
Go on.
I think this is one, like I mentioned very often, too many mechanics teams. I think this is one of the stronger showings of those mechanics teams available. And I do think that of the roster that stayed in, there's been a lot of improvements, specifically in Melver. You've seen both his solo showings and also his team showings popping off recently. Most notably, he won the Terrific Name tournament with Matthews. Hunder as well, of course, being a strong member of any team that guy is a part of. Chaotic Turtle rounding out their Hard Rock roster well. The only thing I would have liked to see higher from this roster that would have maybe pushed me like to a little bit further, like I might bump them down to C and move some like a Canada up to B, honestly. But for Norway, I think they could have really used Zubs. Because Zubs left Brazil for Norway, was on that Norway OWC team, could have rounded out that hidden roster a little bit. But other than that, really like this Norway team. Gonna be swapping out Canada and Norway to B, but liking these guys a lot.
Okay. No, I respect that. I
Okay.
feel like if Zubs was on this team, this would be like an easy qualify, top qualify, because Zubs brings a lot of skill set depth alongside, really good mechanics. So I 100% agree.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm putting them definitely in low C. Nev, any thoughts before we move on? Anything?
Yeah, I think like Melver and Nanalini for this team are like they've been improving, but I just don't see the team coming around those two enough for them to qualify. Like I'm actually kind of thinking about putting Imperio down to D now, but compared to the other teams, I don't see Norway beating the other three teams in the C tier.
Yeah. Don't worry about swapping anything for now. If there's like a thing you
I'll
realize,
do it later.
oh, this team I need to put down, I need to swap for another one. Just add the current team you have to what tier you think, and then we'll do the rearrangements afterwards. But yeah, no, that's a fair point. I agree. This one's a hard team to call. It's a hard team to call, but there's a lot of potential. So hopefully we
I
can
can
see
see
something
that.
cool from Norway. I love the Norwegian team. I love all the guys. They're so cool. So I hope they do something cool. I hope they qualify. I'll be so sad if they don't qualify. But yeah, regardless, that's Norway. Let's move on now to Oceania, which is the merge of Australia and New Zealand. Sayo, Emilbus, and Aussie sticking around from last year, with Reattack, Hugin, and Psyche stepping down in favor of Zava, Arbusion, and Pala. This is a pretty big upgrade from last year, I cannot lie. But is this upgrade big enough for them to qualify, considering last year they
course.
just barely missed out
Of
on qualifying? Thoughts?
Yeah.
It's big enough for 12, I think.
Yeah, I would say so as well. That is a good roster. A lot of OWC players as well that were on the top 3 team this year. I feel like this roster has a lot of potential, and it might be the dark horse. With that being said, though, I feel like Oceania is definitely a B tier team, 9 to 12, and yeah, I'm really glad to see these improvements in the roster, and I hope they will get as far as they can.
This is probably the craziest out of the like merges.
Yeah, a huge merge, and I think definitely after OC World Cup 2024, nobody is gonna ever sleep on my goat Sayo, because yeah, literally he scored the match in the last match they played, so they're gonna be a huge driving force in this tournament. It's nice to see Arbusion come back, former player for Australia, and Palar as well made his debut in OC World Cup as a pretty strong Hard Rock player. Was also present, if I'm not mistaken, on the 4-digit World Cup roster last year. So bit of tournament experience on their side. So yeah, definitely a huge improvement on this roster overall. Immobilis as well is very solid. Has been popping off since like early 2023 in tournaments. And I'm very excited for this roster. Definitely a top 12 potential. I agree with you guys. And more than enough to qualify, that's for sure.
I agree with everybody. I think this is a really... Oh, I keep getting the thing wrong. This is a really big upgrade. Definitely a much better version of last year. However, I feel like it's being a little overhyped. Obviously, Sayo's improvement's really good, but he wasn't a super well-rounded everyone carry player. Yes, he's very explosive, especially later down the line on the control, but I don't think it's going to be enough for him to really carry on every single map. I'm very much looking at Arbusion and Pala to try and step up and play as many maps as they can, but I'm not really sure if that is going to be enough to bring Oceania above any further than C tier, I'm afraid. I initially was considering D and Q, and I'm going to be ending up putting a few too many teams in C tier unless I change my mind on some teams coming up. But I think Oceania, although a solid team, definitely good enough to qualify, are not going to make it any further, in my opinion at least. But I see a lot of people putting it in B, so we're going to be putting Unanimous in B for now. Definitely a solid team. I hope to see something good, but in my personal opinion, I think it's a little overhyped. I don't think this team is going to be able to outperform other teams in the B tier, but that's me for now. Anyway, let's move on. Next team coming down here. A very interesting one. Philippines coming in here.
That is
a lot of changes coming in and a lot of really interesting ones. Nathan Ram, the man, the captain himself, sticking around with full changes for the rest. Mia, Milo, Kagano, Hyok, Ramu, and Impalster all leaving the team in favor of Zone Louise, Alue, Lord Gabriel, Aurora on Osu, and Ikarusi. Oh, this is so interesting. This is so interesting.
Wait, all right. I got some thoughts, and I just saw something. I have a huge disagreement with Kuba. So, of course.
What the fuck,
yeah, yeah. So let's get the obvious out of the way. Losing Hyok is literally the second biggest possible loss from last year. He was the second best player in the tournament, and it was like not close with the ones behind him. Hyok was incredible. However, a year has passed, and let me say right now that what I said earlier about Indonesia is totally going to apply here. I'm going to stick them in A tier.
Oh, wow.
Wow, okay.
I'm going to stick them in A tier because this year, in this year's edition, to me, there are 4 players who stand up above the rest in terms of skill sets. Kriller was one of them. Nathan Ram is a second one of them. Nathan Ram has gotten so freaking good, and I may be biased, but I have been literally, as the coach of the French team in OC World Cup, I have been traumatized by Nathan Ram as they beat the Philippines beat us in that losers bracket match. They beat us 6-3, and let me tell you that in the match costs, out of the top 8 players of this match cost, 6 were French players. But Nathan Ram was at this top spot, and he played incredibly. Of course, the rest of the team did as well. Like, props to them. Song Wee's very experienced player as well. Has made a return in the competitive scene and has been really, really good, really solid. Ikarusi is also a very good addition for them, or on Osu as well. Like, the roster changes are very interesting. And apart from the Hyok loss, I mean, Ramu is also a pretty rough loss on the hidden. But apart from the Hyok loss, I think this roster keeps a lot of its driving force to reach the later stages of this tournament. And Nathan Ram is just going to be a difference maker. He has gotten so freaking good, and if he really tries hard, he can be one of the absolute best players in the tournament. So I might be overhyping this roster, but I'm going to stick them in A tier.
No, I can definitely see the vision for you. I understand that, and remembering the stat sheet for OWC, or Nathan Ram was on like top 5 for most of them, and Nathan Ram
he was third in
he's literally
qualifiers.
on another level. And not only that, yes, sure, you lose Hyuk, and that is a big loss. That is a massive loss. But still, you have new players for this roster. Zone Louise is definitely going to help on mechanics. You also have other players that might help, and all things considered, Philippines is still a really good roster, and I feel like maybe 5 to 6 is a little bit too high, because there are other teams that might get into that spot, but I feel like 9 to 12 is a pretty safe placement for myself.
Any other thoughts, Hubba? I heard you may be interested in saying something.
I
Considering you put
originally had them.
the-
I had them in DNQ for a second, and then I
Oh, you
realized,
kneeled.
wait,
You
no, it
kneeled.
was a knowledge
Ah,
diff. I'm not familiar with half of these people, so I don't know Alu, Lord Gabriel, or Aurora on Osu. I'm familiar with Nathan Ram, of course, Zone Luis, of course, and Ikarusi, an upcoming star for the Philippines, as said by Henry himself, and. I had some second thoughts, of course. Now that I remember this roster, I'm gonna be swapping them with Greece and putting them in the C. I think they qualify, but I don't think they may be well-rounded enough for my liking.
Kind of harsh, personally, your placement, but I respect that. I respect that.
Nev, any thoughts before I ramble a little bit?
Yeah, Nathan Ram is just such a force on his own that they qualify 100%, and then I see them just winning a match.
I agree. I fully agree. Nathan Ram is such an indescribably good player. I mean, he is literally going to be top 3 players in this tournament, alongside the likes of players like Krilla, like Fragrance of Page, like Bubbleman. He is genuinely absurdly good. And, you know, he used to be the 3rd musketeer for Philippines last OWC. He has become the lone superstar in 2024, and 2025 he's starting that off as well. Zone Louise has also improved a lot. I know the guy's has been working really hard lately to get back into that really high form to join in. Ikarusi, ginormous prodigy for Philippines. That 3-man core alone would be enough for me to consider this team qualifying. However, I've heard also a couple decent things about Alue in particular. I believe is a pretty good up-and-comer from Philippines. I think I heard a couple people within the PH community say that he's a pretty good player. So I'm also expecting good things with Philippines. You know, the 3 other members outside Nathan Ram alone are pretty solid, but with Nathan Ram, it's ginormous, dude. Absolutely ginormous. And I'm going to be putting them in B tier. Granted, probably middle of the pack to low B tier for me, but B tier nonetheless. Nathan Ram alone is going to be huge. So let's move on now that I've finished doing my little yap, and let's move on to the next team. Another one that I hope we don't talk about too much because there's going to be a lot of discussion. It's going to be Poland. A rebuilding year, 2024 and 2025 is going to be for Poland. Bartek and Shedis coming in here again with Mustache, Alimentaire, also known as BMG, with Kosierek and Tartis coming in for Poland, exchanged for Tefik, Bartek, Young Leoja, and Pomidor. This is a ginormous upgrade, and in my opinion, a candidate for top 8 or top 6.
Who wants to get started in Poland? Lots to say, lots of changes. Well, I guess I'll go.
Go on.
So, 2 returning players, Bartek and Shedis, and Mustache, Alimentaire, who is BMG if I'm not mistaken, Kosierek and Tartis. So, Kosierek, Tartis, and Shedis were OSU World Cup rookies this year and helped Poland gain this top 12 placement. And I'm very enthusiastic for this roster. I think Shedis, Kosierek, Tartis are some of the new generation Poland players who are gonna make sure this team gets a good placement, being carried also by the experience of Mustache and Bartek. Mustache especially freshly out of an insane OSU World Cup performance. I had not seen Mustache play that well in a long time. And then, like, Mustache is back, and that's so nice to see. Very, very good mechanics on this roster. Very good hard rock. Kosierek on hard rock is very, very, like, he's a force to be reckoned with. Good tapping roster, Tartis, Shedis, Mustache also. The hidden with BMG and Bartek is also not lacking, so a very complete roster, and if they bring the motivation that they showed to have during the OSU World Cup, I definitely believe they can get up in this top 6 finish.
Yeah. I think for me, one thing I'm a little bit scared about is their qualifier results, considering all of them are going to be at Kel. But outside of that, afterwards, there's no world where they don't qualify. I'm sorry, this team is too well-rounded and too good to not qualify. But how they do in bracket stage is a bit of a question mark. I don't know if they're going to really care. I don't know if they're going to put in loads of effort. But considering there are loads of newer members of this team, as I said, Poland are in a bit of a rebuilding time right now. Shadis, Koshirek, Elementaire, Tardis, with the star power and mentoring of Mustache and Bartek, definitely could do really, really, really good. There's a lot of potential with this team, and I'm expecting good stuff from Poland this year. I'm gonna put them in top 6, and I think they could do really good, really, really good.
That's a solid roster, and considering the fact that even though Poland does not have such players as Malajewski, Rafis, or Nahus for this team, this is still an amazing team that probably gets top 7 to 8 in my book. And I'm just happy. And also, in general, in their Kel Free performance, I feel like that Kel Free can also play in their favor. Yes, sure, they are playing on LAN, and we did see the UK team getting a slightly lower seed than expected due to playing on the Epic LAN last OWC. But I feel like with Poland, I'm honestly really positive, and they could get a really good seed nonetheless. But even if they don't, they still have a whole bracket stage. And with that being said, Poland is just a really solid team.
I'd like to hop in real quick and add something. Is that I actually think that the playing without Malashevsky is something that they currently need, because you like keep building that team that can reach like top 12 OWC and top 6, top 4, maybe like top 8, top 6, 3 WC without Malashevsky. Keep building the motivation and the consistency on those newer players, and then for the next OWC you add Malashevsky, and that could be a very scary team.
Yeah, 100% agree. This is a giant potential roster, honestly. How about Nev? Any thoughts?
Pretty much agree.
No? No?
Yeah,
Nice.
agree.
Solid. Sweet. Let's move on to the next team then. Romania doing a little bit of a hee-hee funny, considering their OWC roster in 2024 had none of these guys except for, I believe, Nanoya.
Nanoya.
Yeah, I think that's
All
it, really.
Eternum, I think.
No,
I
all
think
of
they
them
had
were in
Eternum
it
as
except
well.
for Badu.
Okay, never mind. I'm trolling. I'm stupid. Ignore me. But
I mean-
still, this is a pretty insane 5-man roster. Somehow no sixth, but regardless, Badu, Eternum, Lucrece, Nanoya, and Origin. This is insane. This is like peak on paper Romania.
I'm honestly surprised that we didn't see all of these players for OWC, but with this much firepower, you have star players left, right, and center. You have Badu, you have Eternum, you have Lucrece, you have Nanoya. You have almost every single skill set covered, and not just covered. For Badu, you have like amazing precision, amazing hidden. For Eternum, you have amazing hard rock. For Nanoya, good DT. Like all of these players, they can do so much, and this roster is such big potential. I feel like it would be criminal to rate them lower than top 6.
How do I put this? I think I'm gonna be the massive outlier here. I think they qualify.
That's it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
With this team?
Really?
Yeah. The thing is, I was really like, I'm kind of in a surprise me mood with Romania currently, because I really wasn't like pleasantly surprised by their OSU World Cup performance, and they had like 4 of these 5 players on their OWC team, only Badu missing. And the thing is, like, of course, Badu, GOAT of Romania, best player they ever had, and a huge experience on this player. Like, I don't want to sleep on these players, because historically, this team is definitely a team I would have agreed on putting like top 6, top 4. But the thing is, like, we haven't seen much of like Eternum, Nanoya, like in recent tournaments as much as we used to. Like, I don't really trust the consistency as much as I used to with these players. And another point is that Badu's skill sets really don't clash well with the other players on this team, I feel like. Like, Badu, of course, is going to be like the GOAT of reading, GOAT of aim, and some players can't fill in these skill sets, and you're going to have to like not rely on Badu for tapping, of course. So with how long we've gone without seeing Badoo in tournaments, and their recent OSU World Cup performance which admittedly was quite disappointing compared to what they used to put up. I don't want to be too enthusiastic, but I definitely think they have enough skill sets, to qualify, and I'd like to see them win a match or two. But I'm in a surprise me mood where I'm gonna put them there for now, and I'll gladly admit that I was wrong if they go further in this tournament.
I saw someone in chat say Super is getting cocky just because France beat Romania 2 years ago.
All right, so
Oh,
all right,
man.
so
Okay,
I'm not
that.
getting cocky. I'm not
gonna-
getting cocky. I swear. I have tremendous respect for Romania, and Romania has beaten France in OSU World Cup as well. So, yeah.
Okay.
That's just that's my take for now. I
So-
completely agree. I mean, I completely understand if you disagree with me.
Okay, I am actually going to add on that I actually do disagree with one thing. Saying that Badoo is kind of completely alone in terms of skill set variety, I think I really disagree with that. I feel like the only thing that Romania are really lacking here is reading, and that's to a higher degree. I think Eternum, Lucrece, and Onoya can literally play any map that has a mechanics depth enough to trick up Badoo. If any hard rock without tapping involved, you have Eternum and Badoo, and then it's either Lucrece or Nonoya coming in, and anything that's too extreme on aim for one of the 3 mechanics plays, you can have Badoo, have Origin come in for specialized, and then have any of the other 3 who feel the most comfortable come in. I feel like this team is actually a lot more well-rounded than it seems, and the only question mark I have with this team is motivation, to be honest. Like, on paper, this
Oh,
team is
yeah.
shockingly
Yeah,
good, and the
that is
only
a good
reason why
factor.
they're not in top 6 for me is the fact that I feel like half of them actually might not actually like have too much of an effort in, which is fine, but it doesn't change the fact that I don't think they're going to place as high as other teams. But still, like, this is a really good team, man. A really good team, and definitely well-rounded enough to contest some of the A-tier teams. 100%.
After March 2024, the combined play count of Badoo, Eternum, and Lucrece is under 1,000.
Oh,
I just
you
want to
know
throw
what?
that out there.
Yeah,
and,
that's
kinda
what's
and,
fun to
and
observe
speaking of those motivations, Nanoya has been pretty consistently playing. Origin is the up and comer, pretty consistently playing. But your top 3 having such low play count, that motivation coming into question is very valid.
Yeah, Huba gets me. Huba gets me.
Okay, you know what? With that play count, I probably will move Romania a tier lower. It's still a really crazy team, but yeah, with that in mind, I feel like motivation is a really serious factor for this team. Also, adding on to that, the OWC performance for Romania last year, I feel like Badoo is a perfect person who to fill the gaps in the Romanian would be a great person to fill the gaps in the Romanian roster last year, and I feel like the lack of Badoo last year was partially why Romania did not do as well as some people would expect. But still, with that roster, I feel like that's a 9 to 12.
Sweet. Nev, any closing thoughts?
Oh man, I was so hyped just for those names alone, but then like you mentioned the play count. Oh man, I
Yeah.
really wanted to keep him in the A tier, but
It really does matter on whether or not they'll put in the effort
Yeah.
and actively
I
try
feel
to
like
win.
I feel like it's kind of like a France situation where earlier you guys were talking about like Mbappe, Thunder, and everything without really knowing that they had not really been active these past 2 years, and that's a similar case with Romania.
Yeah. Alrighty, let's move on. Romania, very scary team, a lot of potential, but whether or not that play count will be a difference, we'll have to see. Anyway, moving on now to Russia. Dude, it's another really freaking good team. Why do all the best teams have to come so late when time starts to
Yeah.
get close, man? This is
Team is
Exactly.
insane.
That is a
Din,
very good team.
Scrowell, DE, Nuke, Handsome Me sticking around with Sigi and Suzuha stepping down. Sigi, a pretty decent loss, but still good enough replacements here. Dahuchka and Ice Shark coming in for Russia.
I feel
Immediately,
like-
I think, goddamn, this is one of the best mechanics teams in the whole tournament. What is this?
Okay, let me cook on this one. I feel like this roster up is a massive upgrade from last year. You have Ice Shark, you have Din, you have Scrobble. Also, Daniilka is really good at mechanics as well. This team, they also are really well-rounded. Scrobble definitely being the star player on this one, and I feel like Russia, they did underperform last year with the number 13 and 16 placement, but with these new additions, and the overall potential and the firepower for this roster, especially since a lot of these players are kind of motivated. You have the suit for Hard Rock, you have Scroll for Hard Rock as well. You can also like see someone like Danielka for Hard Rock, or even Ice Shark. For mechanics, it's just they have so many options, and I feel like this is the best mechanics team in this tournament. And with that being said, I feel like Russia is just a solid like top 4 or top 3.
Top 3 is crazy. Top 4, I see a world. Top 4, I see a world. But I feel like the top 3 are so obvious and unanimous to me, at least for me. But it's still, I still get your points for Shoreline. Like, this team is really, really good. Like, the core and the well-roundedness of this team, alongside the explosiveness on the mechanics side, you know, in tournament where there are so many good mechanics teams, this one is one of the best, for sure.
Yeah, once again, I don't want to kill the hype, but I can't ignore the O2 finish last year. And this team is incredible on paper, huge names, and especially players like Squirrel and Din, who have been there for years. Ice Shark is a really good addition. Dahushka has been in OWC before, so tournament experience is definitely there for them. However, I think it's kind of like those could shine in late stage team, but also could be like early staged really hard. So I'm gonna put them in B tier for now. Definitely could be in A tier. They have the potential, but I don't really want to be too enthusiastic after what happened last year. And of course, immense potential if they manage to get to late stage, and especially on the mechanics and the tapping mechanics. They have immense potential, but without the classic OSU World Cup carries that are like Welter and Chaconi that can ensure great scores early stage as well with consistency, I'm a bit reluctant to place them as high as A tier.
I'd like to think that O2 from last year will just give them more motivation to try and even push beyond top 6 this time.
Fair.
I mean, Russia are a team that care, man. Like, Russia cares. Like, I don't know.
Care.
Like, they really do care.
I feel like, especially since most of this core roster is from OWC, putting them in like that 13 to 16 was probably just a really unlucky day for like both of their performances. And I have high hopes for this Russia roster, but it's usually just me being on copium because I always have high hopes for Russia rosters.
Alrighty. Does anybody else have any other thoughts with Russia before we move on? It seems like it's practically unanimous A tier. Oh, whoops, wrong team. Unanimous A tier coming in here. Oh my god, I keep getting the wrong flag. I'm sorry, Leiden. My bad, bro.
Subtle foreshadowing.
My hockeys aren't working very well, sorry.
It's
Anyway,
it's fine.
let's move on to the next team. As ridiculously, absurdly, stupid, fuck off good this team is, I don't think we need to talk about them too much. It's South Korea. Reigning 3WC champions with the best bloody team in the roster. Even if they lose the best player in the tournament, it doesn't mean jack. Amamiya Coco, Doomsday Fanboy, Allegrisimo, Fragrance of Page, and Jean Muyong and worst HR player stepping down for Parisia and Restia. It doesn't mean anything, dude. Someone already put Korea top 1 for me. They're winning the tournament, dude. This team is stupid good.
Yeah, also Fragrance of Page, if you've seen Circles in Solan, massive performance on that one as well. He managed to win against Flying Tuna and worst HR player in finals and semifinals and finals of that tournament. Granted, of course, it was on LAN, but the improvement on Fragrance of Page is he's probably one of those players who will be among the top 5 best players actually in this tournament. Maybe even top 3.
I'll push this even further and say that Fragrance of Page is the best player in the tournament. I talked earlier about Kriller and Nathan Ram being 2 of my top 4. Yeah, he's my top 1. Fragrance of Page managing to take the win on worst HR player. Like, worst HR player was by extremely far the best player in last year's edition, and I even read that. I mean, of course, many people even argued that like he was too strong for that rank range. But I mean, it is what it is. You know, he was in the tournament. He played amazingly, and yeah, Fragrance of Page was a rookie last year, and he basically came in pretty much unknown by like the grand scene. Like apart from people who really followed tournaments, nobody really knew how good this guy was. I feel like last year, but now everybody knows him. He's basically like the Osu Lightning McQueen currently. Like he came in and was Rookie of the Year for Osu World Cup 2024 by a freaking landslide. It was not even kind of close. And I'd argue he was like one of the strongest rookies I've ever seen in Osu World Cup alongside Whitecat in 2020, Vaxay 2018. So yeah, Worst star players' shoes are huge ones to fill, but if one man is going to do it, it is Frigates of Page, definitely. And also bringing back Parisia and Restia, I'd argue that in recent years, we've seen a lot of USA-South Korea matchups, and one of like the most quoted weaknesses for South Korea has been like the high BPM speed, like the stamina, the late-stage mechanics maps. With players like Restia, Parisia, Doomsday Fanboy, Frigates of Page all able to play like pretty high BPM speed, that's not going to be that much the case anymore. So, despite losing the best player of last year, of course losing Form is a big hit, I still think like they have 4 OSU World Cup winners on that roster. Parisia and Restia also have multiple second place badges, a lot of experience, a lot of motivation. They're the obvious top 1 pick.
Yeah, I fully agree. You know, if South Korea do have any kind of struggle somehow with some magic, they're going to win because of Fragrance of Page. As Miles said last time in OWC predictions, the 3W is going to be the same thing. Forum's gone, doesn't matter. Fragrance of Page has improved so much. It's gonna be crazy. And what's even crazy is that you can't even exploit a weakness on this team anymore. Last time, even in OWC, you'd think, yeah, okay, they're still like easily the best team in the tournament, but they still have that speed weakness. They don't even have that anymore. The ceiling is not high enough for the roster that you have now for that to be a problem. You have Restia and Doomsday Fanboy who are specialists, and then you have either Parisia or Fragrance of Page, depending on what kind of tapping map it is. Like, it's done. The only like slight question mark you could see with this team is maybe with reading. But outside of that, like, it's fine. You still have a good lineup, though. You can run Amamiya, Kroko, Fragrance of Page, and Restia as a 3-man reading roster, which is still good. Maybe contestable, but it's not even close to the weakness that they would have stereotypically on speed. Like, this team is unstoppable, and I think easily going to make, like, without a fraction of a doubt, grand finals, and very, very, very likely to win the whole thing.
Yeah, I think
That's it.
for the reading aspect, Restia is most likely going to be a fill, and on Hidden in general, it's going to pretty much alternate between Algoritimo and Restia as the 3rd player behind Fragrance Page and Amamiya Kokoro. And that's not even, I wouldn't even call it a weakness.
Alrighty.
And Parisia being back is huge for their tapping roster.
True.
Any other thoughts? I know me and Subaru have been yapping a ton, but do you guys have any thoughts that we haven't mentioned of yet? Anything?
Third
So,
year
I
in a
mean,
row.
they're just goated.
Repeat.
Yeah, they're just goated. There's nothing
Simple
to say
as
other than that. They're goated.
Sweet. So that seems to be unanimously set. So let's now move on to the next team, which is going to be Sweden. Finally, we're not going to be seeing powerhouses anymore, as Sweden has probably gotten one of the biggest losses in this entire tournament. Skilla is not on the team, alongside a lot more of OWC veterans in Spinks, Melwem, and Lightwine. Yogako, Trumpetino still sticking around, but a full new set slate of players with, from what I tried to research, not a lot of tournament experience. Nexus Gamer, Slayer, Purple, and Zeva.
You know, I find it ironic they're kind of familiar with Norway a little bit, because I don't really recognize a few of those names for Norway. And a lot of new players in general. Losing Skilla is a massive hit, because that Skilla by himself could probably elevate this team to qualify. But as you can probably all see, we are not really that optimistic about Sweden this
Skilla
year.
was the X factor for this team. I mean, Jagako and Trumpetino, they're all right, but they're no Scylla.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Skilla's an irreplaceable player on this team. He was so clutch so many times.
Oh yeah,
For
but
this country,
still,
lost 3WC.
yeah, you can't understate how much of a determined factor he was. Like last year in qualifiers, he was the 4th best performer behind worst HR player Hyak and Kriller, and he topped players like Suwagi, Decadent, Takedo, Fragrance of Page. Like he was huge. So losing Scylla is, yeah, I agree, one of the biggest losses possible for this roster. And you add the loss of Spinks and Melwem, who also were pretty strong players for this roster last year, contributing massively to this 9th to 12th finish. So, unfortunately, it's going to be a DNQ for me.
All right. Seems pretty unanimous. Any other thoughts? Anything else? No? Sweet. Let's move on then to the next team.
Man.
Here.
This one is
It's,
interesting.
I think Subaru is going to be jumping with joy with this one.
Oh man,
Taiwan,
I have
at least on paper, are so back
I have
did not play in
never.
2024, and now their superstar, mostly 2021 winning roster are all back. Shield, Dazzlewind, Zane, Riser, Willie, and Kairos.
I have never been happier to see a roster being back in the tournament. As you pointed out, most of these players returning from the winning team in 2021. Taiwan has not even submitted a team since 2021, their win, and
Crazy.
it was crazy. And I know like multiple podcasters before me pointed this out, and they have 4 returning players from that winning team: Shield, Dazzlewind, Zane, and Riser, and trading back then Flask and GFMRT for Kairos and Willie. Man, I want to see this team go so far. I know like some of these players are probably rusty, but if they have a semblance of what they were capable to do back in the day, they could arguably have one of the best DT rosters in this tournament, as Shield, Riser, Willie, Zane, Dazzle are really good on those kind of skill sets. They're kind of missing like the extra Spines Knight or Shinonori for something like hidden related, but also a pretty solid Hard Rock roster if they can reach the same heights as they used to. So it's a big question mark because we haven't seen these players in so long at their top level, but we've seen Shield in like OSU World Cup 2021 being one of the best players in the tournament. We've seen Dazzle carry this roster in 2022. Riser with this insane consistency and accuracy. Willie was the big contributing factor in 2024. He was like by far the best player on the team, and he was like basically the reason they were able to upset Malaysia in that loser bracket match. So I'm very excited to see them. So happy. Welcome back, Taiwan, and I definitely want them to qualify. And I'm gonna even slap them in B tier.
I'm looking at
That
this
is
duo
just-
from
Yeah.
Shield and Willie, and like that already pushes this team so high for me.
They are
That
so
seems
bad.
crazy.
Yeah, I would love for them to get as far as they can, like top 12, maybe top 8. But realistically, like it feels criminal because like all of these players back in like 2021, this would have been like a no-brainer S or maybe A tier. But now I feel like the competition has grown so much that you kind of have to place them in C tier at this point.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think for me, what makes this really difficult is that you look at this on paper, and if you looked like back maybe 2 years, maybe even a year and a half, you could play this team so much higher. But I think Taiwan in the last few years have just collectively not performed as high as I'd want them to. I think mostly Shield is not really in the form that I remember him being. Willie has been instrumental, granted, but I don't know anything about Dazzlewind. I haven't seen anything from Zane or Riser. I don't know much about Kairos. And assuming that they've just come back after not really playing that much for a while, I can't really put a lot of faith in this team. Not to say that they can't. There's definitely potential for top 12. But I'm looking at this team with the concerns I have, and I don't really see them overtaking some of the other teams in B tier. So I'm going to be sticking them in the C tier. Don't get me wrong, though. Probably the highest C tier team in my tier list. 100%.
That's more
same
than
for
fair.
me. Same for me. Yeah.
We haven't seen them in a long time, so it's really fair.
Right, so I think the consensus here generally seems to be C on average. That's
Yes,
Philippines, wrong
yes.
team. There we go.
Surely Shiba will
Okay,
find the right
welcome
team.
back, Taiwan. Though, like honestly, as much as sad as I am to predict them to be C, I'm so happy to see them back, and I can't wait to
I
cast
agree.
them. I've never
yeah.
casted a Dazzle win match. I can't wait for that moment because
Yeah.
that's awesome. That just makes me really happy to see. So welcome back, Taiwan. Really,
Yeah.
really
everybody
happy to
loves
see you
Taiwan.
back. Anyway, here we go. Next team now. We're going to the last 3 now. We're almost there. Just a little ahead of schedule, which is good. I thought we'd be way later, so I'm glad we made it just a little later. Ukraine coming in next up here. A pretty dramatic downgrade, sadly, at least from my perspective here. Gosniki and Rev GPO, granted Rev GPO is a star player, really, really good. But the losses here, for me, are way too big. Dench, Taurus, Roman, and Sharitori all stepping down from the team, with Ayla, OneMax, and Suri coming in, with Slowpoke, also known, who is a good player, Caustic, who was King GG last OWC, who was an OWC player. Not somebody who I remember particularly, but still a player of note. Did play well enough to get into the World Cup team last year.
Yeah,
Thoughts, guys?
that is
Thoughts?
a massive loss. Losing Dench, Net by Not, and Charitori, arguably, except for Draft GPO, one of the better players in the Ukrainian roster for that year and for OWC as well. A lot of newcomers and a lot of questions for this roster, but even then, I still think that even like this is a massive loss. Three of the really good players are now gone, but even with that, Ukraine, I probably wouldn't really sleep on them because Raf GPO and a few of these newcomers, they are quite good, and Raf GPO in general, he might be the X factor that this roster needs desperately. And with that out of the way, I feel like Ukraine has a pretty good chance to.
Oh,
Leiden?
Oh no,
Leiden? No!
What? What?
my
Leiden,
boy.
you lagged out, you
Oh.
lagged out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and I feel like Ukraine has a really good chance to qualify with this one because yes, the losses are massive, but the potential for these newer players and the X factor on Raf GPO kind of makes me put them on the qualifying teams.
Okay, any other thoughts, guys? Any other thoughts?
I
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
DQs from Nevin Hubba.
Yeah, I always thought that Dench was always the X factor of the Ukraine roster, especially in
I kinda
OWC showings, and missing both him and Poma and Shari Tori. It's that trio just being swapped out. I'm
That
not
trio
super
hurts way too
familiar.
much. For me,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, it's just too much. Gonna be running with no qualifying for Ukraine this time around, sadly. Hopefully, Dench can find his motivation back soon.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think Rev GPO is the only one single factor that could bring Ukraine to qualification. To give them credit, I don't know the other players well enough. I did not see badges on their profile when I was looking. I'm only familiar with Guzniki and King GG having played before. I don't know them outside of that. They didn't seem to be outlying players for me, and the new players kind of replacing the other ones is unfortunately not good enough. I think what made Ukraine such a scary roster is that all of them collectively had really good value early to mid stage, and when you don't have that collective factor where everyone is at least solid and reliable, you can't really see Ukraine pushing through early stage threats to make them scary enough to place them any higher over DNQ. You could see them up there, but even then, I see other teams potentially out-qualifying them. It really does depend on the day. I don't know the new players. I hope Rev GPO drags this team out, but as far as I really know, I don't think any of the other members here are going to be strong enough to get them out of qualification. Granted, I do hope so, though. I really hope so. Underdog stories are always awesome for me.
I know
I'm really happy with
some
that.
of these. Yeah, I know some of these newer players, and honestly, I wouldn't sleep on them. I think they did really good on the Ukrainian Osu tournament, getting quite far ahead in their own tournament and surpassing even not some. Granted, there were a lot of electricity shortages when that tournament was played, so that could be a factor. But still, I wouldn't really sleep on these new players. They have potential,
Yeah.
and that's a dark horse for me to qualify at least. I can.
Okay,
They are
that's valid.
even if they qualify, it's probably going to be on the lower tiers.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think for me, swap one of the three rookies for any of the bottom three. Like, obviously, Dench is obvious a bump up, right? But even the bottom three, any one of those players would be good enough to bump this up. I think that's what's really rough for me, is that you lost
get it,
so
yeah,
much
I
of
get
that
it.
reliable versatility for me. But yeah, yeah.
I just quickly want to point out that I mean, however big the losses are, there still is a lot of tournament experience on the players that are joining the roster, especially one Max returning, has been multiple times OSU World Cup player for Ukraine. Guzniki as well, a lot of experience. And yeah, to me, the contributing factor that put them in C tier is Rap GPO and his insane performance in the OSU World Cup. So I trust this roster to make it through qualifiers, but not much further.
Maybe I'll do some swapping. But at the moment,
Yeah, well-
it seems generally more. Well, that's not UK. That's not UK. That's Ukraine. I don't know why UK were there. Mayhaps because they're up next.
May I
Holy
go first?
shit! UK
May I
have
go
a
first,
really
please?
My man is
fucking
so
good
excited.
3WC roster. Finally!
Everybody let Shiba cook.
Finally! Do you know how many days I've been waiting for UK to have a really freaking good team for 3WC? Holy shit. Okay,
Your
I'm gonna
prayers
yap
were
last.
answered.
I'm
Alright,
yapping last.
Okay,
I'm
Yap
yapping
Yeah,
cost
alright.
1,000. All right,
Yeah.
full freedom.
Holy
Let's go. Let's go. You got this, Shiva.
Okay. So you want to go last, Shiba, or first?
I'll go last. You go.
Okay.
Okay.
I can get started if nobody else wants to.
I can go, please.
Go ahead. Go
alright.
ahead.
I
Take
don't
it.
know if you've noticed the subtle foreshadowing within my brackets. There's 2 empty spaces within the S and the A. And I gotta say, UK wins it.
Yeah.
UK is
Oh.
going to be the winner of this year's 3WC is my prediction.
The winner! Oh my
Oh.
god.
This is such a strong roster. This is the roster that brought them to a 4th place OWC this year. And while they may not have the strongest speed, they have strong everything else. And they brought Easy Champ back. The aim control is locked in. I love this roster so much. I'm happy to see my boys return. And I'm excited to see them fight through this tournament.
Yeah, that's a pretty bold take. I very longly hesitated to put them. I debate a lot whether I should put them in S or A tier, because it's like, yeah, of course, like spoilers, but the final 2 teams are gonna be like up there, and I really was hesitant between them and USA for the second spot in S tier, but I very narrowly got to give it to USA. We'll talk about them later, but I still think that UK have yet to build this extra bit of consistency that USA already has been building for years now. And this team has played incredibly in OC World Cup, as pointed out earlier. Bubbleman being in this roster is absolutely huge. He completes the top 4 of the players I have in mind for this tournament with Friggin, Spage, Kriller, and Nathan Ram. Bubbleman is absolutely huge. Mahmoud had an insane return to OC World Cup in 2024 after his like 1 or 2 year hiatus, and Scatso being here is huge. I know it was like pretty uncertain that he would be on the team, but having Scatso is great, and the rest of the team is so good. Like S-Champ, Listia, Hans. Like this is possibly the best hidden roster in the tournament, and like still really good at mechanics, really good at like reading gimmicky stuff. Like they cover a lot of skill sets and they cover them really well. So I'm very, very, very excited for this UK team. Not quite up there in S tier for me, but really damn close.
Like, I can resonate a lot with Shiba for being so happy to finally see a massive, great roster for FreeWC, and I think that UK is at bare minimum top 4. This team has so many skill sets. This team, as mentioned prior, is really good on hidden, and even then they have top 2 potential. They have a massive top 2 potential, and this team is just amazing. I no other words other than just hype for UK. I want to see them go higher. I want to see them on top 2, but for now I'm gonna put them safely on A tier.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put this in A tier as well. I was debating putting the S tier, but I mean, it's looking at just this roster, it's looking really hype to see a UK roster like this in 3WC, especially after Mahmoud he went off in OWC. Yeah, Bubbleman now and Schiazzo, that already to me seems like an absolute crazy trio. But I think this is like top 3 min.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Shiba Yap time. Listen, this team is fucking awesome. And it is literally like majority outside of what? Maybe like a Kolibad, the best collective UK team you could possibly build. You know, first off, a lot of these players have improved a ton. You know, Bubbleman's starting to return into his prime. Bubbleman is freaking Bubbleman. We don't have to say anything else about him, right? But not only do you have the super improved, really good players coming in, like Haunt, Mahmoud, Listia, and Skia, who are all so good, especially Mahmoud, who, I mean, I don't know, man, he's made himself a top contender, very scary player for UK. But you also brought in Easy Champ, who was one of the biggest contributors to your success in 2023. So having him come in as well, it's just perfection. You have a really good 3-man roster for literally everything. Like reading, Horn, Easy Champ, and Listia, if not Skia or Easy Champ. Aim, you've got Mahmoud, you've got Bubbleman, and you've got a mixture of either Easy Champ or Skia. Precision, Horn, Listia, Marmood, Hard Rock, Marmood, Easy Champ, Horn, Bubble Man. You could run so many things, and obviously Hidden. Hidden. Almost everyone in this team can do really good on Hidden. You know, there's yeah, like Chat is saying, there's no world I wouldn't be glazing this team. I had very slight doubts on the UK team last year, but I did say emphatically that UK top 4 is actually so doable, no cap, end quote. And you know what happened? They almost freaking got top 4. So I'm going to stay faithful to my belief and say UK top 2 is actually so oh, that's Ukraine. UK top 2 is actually so freaking doable, no cap. And I stand by that. I genuinely think this team is stronger than USA, like by so much. This has so much absurd roster depth, and it's not one of those things where everyone can do something on everything. These guys can be considered specialists on so many skill sets that collectively are scary on almost everything. It's crazy. And, you know, I'm overhyping UK, you know, in terms of, like, my tone of voice. Like, if I want to be fully transparent, I do believe South Korea are still the stronger team, as much as I am so happy that Hubba believes UK to be winning this thing. I am so happy. Like, I want them to win too, trust me. I'd be so happy if they won. Although I have to try and be realistic and not be, like, absurdly unfairly biased, it doesn't change the fact that I am so confident that UK can get top 2. Top 3, top 4, absolute bottom minimum. Absolute bottom barrel minimum. I have so much faith in this team. I love UK so much. They taught me in OWC that, you know, if I believe they can do it, they absolutely can. Even if they look shaky on other circumstances, even if they look shaky while winning, if they can do something, they absolutely can do it. You know, they lost against Germany in OWC on top of some really unfortunate circumstances, despite Germany doing very well. I do not believe the caliber of this team reflects how between their matchup against Germany and OWC. I think this team has a lot of disgusting potential, enough to beat USA. Absolutely, in my opinion. So that's my UK glaze done. That being said, I'm so happy that UK have a good team. Feels like for the last 4 years, they've had a sadly, tragically weak 3WC roster. And now that they have literally the best team they could physically form, I'm so happy, and I can't wait. But that being said, we're starting to approach our end here. We're now at the last team. It's time for the United States. Another team that's going to be very strongly discussed, I can imagine. Boshiman and Takedo sticking around from last year. Second place in 2024 with that roster. With a lot of changes here, but very welcomed ones. Razorfruit, Decaden, Tallulah, and Karma lost here for 2025, but replaced with very good players here. Caleb, Ethan Trix V2, Pez, and Flames tier. A really, really solid team, and in my honest opinion, strongest candidate for top 3. And a decent candidate for top 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go?
Yeah, I guess I will go. So
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The main reason why I decided to put United States for top 2 is that yes, UK has that potential and they can get top 2. And you know, a Shiba cast on Grand Final South Korea United Kingdom, that sounds awesome.
Sounds
However,
so sexy, man.
Exactly, but I feel like with the USA, this roster depth, what can they not do? And you know, I've mentioned that the UK team is the best hidden team. Looking at the United States roster, I feel like the United States roster is probably going to be better at hidden and low especially. You have Boshiman, you have Ethan Trix, you have C. You also have a few other players that are really good and everything. This roster depth is insane, and they don't have a weakness either. They're really close with UK, but I feel like with the United States, it's probably the overall, not just experience, but actually maybe experience. But yeah, I feel like United States is either at bare minimum top 3, realistically top 2.
Yeah. I kind of agree with your take. I'm also putting him at second place. I would argue that losing both Decaden and Kama is a huge hit for this roster. They were 2 of the 3 best players with Takedo last year, and a big contributing factor to making it as close as it was against South Korea in Grand Finals was 7-5, I believe. So losing Decaden and Kama not only is a big hit for the consistency of this roster, but also on Hard Rock particularly speaking. And I don't feel really reassured with that Hard Rock roster for them this year, but all of the other skill sets are pretty much insanely covered. As you mentioned earlier, the hidden reading with Ethan Trix, Takedo, Caleb, Boshiman. So Yeah, the roster depth is definitely here. The experience is here. The motivation is always here. So I definitely believe that UK and USA are going to battle it out for top 2, but I have to favor slightly USA for, as you mentioned, the experience on this roster. Also, Pez had a really honorable showing in OC World Cup as a rookie, and is arguably going to be one of the driving forces on this Hard Rock roster. Tapping as well is always going to be awesome with USA. They have an absurd amount of top tier tapping players, so it's yeah. I was a bit surprised with some of the choices for this roster, but if they're here, it means they like top performed in tryouts, and they're all here for a reason. Flames tier, really solid DT, solid Hard Rock player. Caleb, solid reading player. Ethan Triggs, very, very good addition for the hidden roster. So I have to trust the roster depth slightly more than on UK side and the consistency as well. But I really, really hope for a close match, and I definitely could see a UK upset.
Okay, I think for me with USA, obviously I have to say right now this team is really, really good. You've especially got some disgustingly strong hidden and gimmick lineups you can run. You obviously have Takedo, who is not only a really strong hidden player, but very well-rounded, practically playing almost every single map. You have Pez, who is not only super well-rounded, but really strong on mechanics, and a really strong pocket player for non-hidden reading maps. Maybe even hidden maps, but as far as I know, it's mostly the no-mod reading maps that he's mostly proficient on. You don't even need to worry about that. You've still got Ethan Trix, who's a hidden specialist that's probably one of the strongest hidden exclusive players in this entire tournament. Boshi is Boshi, really good at exclusive gimmick and really good on tech. I think what scares me mostly with this team is going to be the explosiveness in the later stages. You've got, again, great players who will be really reliable late stage, like Takedo, like Pez. Ethan Trix as well has a lot of potential to be very, very strong late stage. For me, though, I'm a little concerned about the rest of the lineups here. Flames Tower, I know, is a really good, reliable player. Caleb, I know, is a really good, reliable player. But the thing that matters with USA is how good they do in the latest stages, finals and grand finals, right? Because we know they're going to make it far enough to make top 3, top 4. But I'm worried that they're going to be suffering from third man syndrome on a lot more maps than we think later down the line. For example, on like a speedy tapping map, you might have like one third player maybe struggle a little bit. This team is not going to have any worries on hidden. This team is not going to have any issues on no mod. I'm a little worried about non-precision hard rock, and I'm a little bit worried about the general team-wide consistency later stage in grand finals. That being said, free mod is one of this team's biggest strengths, and one thing I'm a little surprised to not see, unless they've ranked up or chose not to play, somebody may be able to correct me here, but I do not see Swick on this team. Has he ranked up too high? Or...
Yeah, I actually would like to have some intel on this, because I was also very surprised to not see him, and I think he's still in the rank range.
Granted, like, you know, USA know their players more than anybody, and I can imagine, you know, Swick either underperformed too much in tryouts or just chose not to play, because I really expected him to be on this team. But outside of that, this team is really good. And I would say they're most likely to get top 3, absolutely. If they were not to get top 3, top 4 absolute bottom minimum, I feel like the only team that could probably outshine them, at least in my eyes, are going to be either Poland or Russia. But outside of that, it's pretty clear to me that USA will get top 3. I believe that UK roster depth-wise are not only more well-rounded, but also more explosive on more skill sets, which is why I put them in second. That is like a genuine objective look, by the way. I don't actually I'm not putting that bias aside. If I was to look at this objectively, I'd still put UK over USA. But that being said, still, USA, really good team, and they could easily get top 2.
Yeah, I feel very similarly about the consistency of these players. If you look at similar tournaments with similar star rating grand finals, notably like the OC World Cup proper or United States Cup, the main trio of Caleb, Pez, and Flames tier, they just seem to be a little bit more explosive towards those end stages in comparison to a South Korea or a United Kingdom, which is why I have them above in those stages. I do expect them to go far. I do expect the Takedo carry clutch to keep it going, but I would like to see them perform well, but I don't think an Ethan Tricks edition is going to be enough to bring them to a first place here. Top 3 seems fair for me.
I'm looking at the players they're keeping from the last year's team. Boshiman and Takedo, still really excellent players in their own regard. Losing to Kaden and Kama, that's gonna hurt, of course, but I'm looking at the players they're adding, and I'd like to believe that they make up for a lot they might be losing out of those 2 players, and that is
Yeah.
just enough for me to put them into top 2.
I
Yeah,
feel
you're-
like
you're
losing Decathlon
totally
and
valid,
Kama does hurt, but you have Ethan Tricks and Pez coming in as well. That I think kind of balances it out. And even though I have South Korea number 1, I feel like with the potential grand finals match, I might be the USA Glazer on this one, but I feel like USA can have a solid chance to win against South Korea on the grand finals. It's more of like a 50-50, maybe like 55-45, but I can see United States winning the tournament.
Over
I
South
think-
Korea?
Over Korea?
I can kind of see it, you know. There is a reality somewhere, but in general, South Korea is probably stronger. But I see the reality where United States might win against South Korea. If a lot of players from South Korea have a pretty bad day, and if United States feels well, I feel like they may win.
I mean,
I feel like if you were to like, I don't know, I would agree with you if you were to exchange one of these players for Takedan, then I could probably see your argument, and I would probably be a bit more willing to move USA to top 2 over UK. But I just don't see the supporting players later stage being enough against either UK or Korea, either UK, let alone Korea.
I mean,
Yeah,
to-
yeah.
to USA's credit,
Counterpoint, Ethan Tricks.
Again, you're welcome. Granted, they're capable. You know, they're top 3. I want to see these newer players perform more than I hoped in the past. I think I'm mostly excited to see what Ethan Tricks does. I feel like he was a player that was
Agree.
kind of sorely missed out in last OWC. He was a player that I looked and I was like, dude,
Agree.
like this guy should really have been on the team, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to see how he's gonna do for this 3WC alongside Pez. I feel like, although Subaru, I know you mentioned that Pez was a really strong performer last year, I'm a little bit on the disagreement. I feel like he didn't play enough for me to match the expectations I had for him, especially in previous performances where I've seen him before OWC. So I hope that in this 3WC he can kind of get himself back up there and pop off again, because if that happens, then this team is really, really friggin' good. I look forward to it.
to add one argument to the USA SK debate that was brought up earlier, I'm of course keeping South Korea as the top 1 contender, like the favorite to win this tournament, but we have seen multiple times in this USA-South Korea matchup, USA get the early lead, and if this year, without worst HR player being on Korea's roster, they managed to snowball these early leads they tend to get against South Korea, who themselves tend to like kind of ease in their match and get better scores as it goes on, it definitely could get a lot closer than people give USA credit for. But I'm curious to see what's going to happen. As you mentioned, Pez still like very impressive, and I mean, I don't fully agree that it was like that much of a disappointment in OWC. I think he was still like performing pretty well, especially that one semifinals match against Australia where he really played very well. So the pop-off potential is definitely there. So yeah, I want to give this edge to USA over UK, but still keeping them below South Korea.
All right. Does anybody else have any closing thoughts about the United States in particular here before we move on to reshuffles and maybe a couple debates here and there for the combined placement? Anything else?
I think we're good.
I think we're
We
good.
just need to go for the overall placement.
Alrighty.
We need
Sounds
to
good.
move one
So-
team higher to top 6. We are supposed to have 4 teams in top.
Yeah, so hold on. First and foremost, gentlemen, you may want to take your screenshots if you plan to post them on Twitter to either clown us or yourselves. So
I'll take a
suggest you
screen
do
after I
that.
reshuffle.
It's just you.
Yeah, I think we screen have to reshuffle. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
doing mine now just to like compare, you know, just to like.
Yeah. So
Okay,
I got
okay.
I got 3 too many teams in C tier, so I gotta bump 1 up and bump 2 down.
Yeah, Shiba has a lot of teams in top 6, by the way.
Yeah, no, I know. I've already kind of had a few ideas with what I want to do to switch things up. I'm probably gonna.
Okay, let's
move
go
it-
for the combined one. I think we need to move one team to top 6. I feel like we can move Poland to top 6.
That feels fair.
So hold on, just to get the order right, because we're gonna get the reshuffle. So you know, at the moment, these are the brief, blind, you know, immediate kind of knee-jerky predictions that we have now. Now we're gonna be going to the confirming stuff where we adjust things accordingly after some reflections and stuff. So S tier. So just to make sure, guys, just to be clear, in order to have all the teams distributed properly, S tier needs 2 teams, A tier needs 4, B needs 6, C also needs 4, and D needs 10.
that is
So
correct.
for combined, we're going to have to move 1 from top 12 up to top 6, 1 from qualifiers down to D and Q, and I think 1 more from no.
And
no,
you
yeah.
want from qualifiers to top 12. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's start off from the higher end. I did mention it prior. I think we can move Poland to top 6.
On
A lot
top
of you
six.
seem to have Poland.
I
at least
agree.
in top 6.
I agree with that. Does anyone have any like super severe objections? Be like, no Poland, no. Anyone like that?
I completely agree with Poland top 6. Out of
Sounds
the
good.
teams we have in combined top 12, they're definitely the outlier for me. They're considerably
Yeah.
stronger. That's Indonesia. That's not Poland.
Indo.
Oh shit, my bad, my bad, my bad.
That's my tier. My tier list
My
is agree with
bad,
that.
bro, my
Close
bad.
enough,
reverse
you know?
colon.
Reverse
Reverse
color,
colon.
yeah. Reverse Poland.
My bad, bro. My bad. Alrighty, so seems like our top 6 and our top 2 is fine. I'm going to just switch Germany with UK because it's pretty unanimous that UK are top 1.
Oh,
top
we're doing
3.
it like this way. Okay.
I mean, I only for the specific one because it feels like it's unanimously obvious that UK is like voted top 3. But
Yeah.
outside of that, there we go. Alrighty, so top 12 and qualify. Should we try and shuffle C, someone from C to D and Q, or should we do something else instead? Like move someone from. Oh wait, no, top 12. How many top 12 do we need? Top 12 we
we're
need
mi-
6. We have
Yeah,
one,
we're
two,
missing
five, so
one in top
from
12.
yeah. So who do we think out of these players in C could go up?
I think it could be Finland.
Finland
Or
is
maybe
fair.
even Taiwan. Like,
Yeah,
it's those 2 teams.
I'm biased because I really love Taiwan. I want to put them up there, but I'm totally like understanding of the argument that those players are rusty when you haven't seen them in a while. So if you guys want to go Finland, I'm fine with that.
I love both of these countries, but I would put Taiwan over Finland.
Interesting, okay.
What are your thoughts? Wait, let me look back at this team. Oh, this is a tough call, guys. This is tough.
I'm rearranging my tier list on my side.
I think I'm more likely to put Chile or Canada up to top 12.
Hey, you know what? You guys did my boys dirty. I'm going all the way with that. Oh no, that's wrong flag.
Wrong country.
Yeah, I'm.
There we go.
Ah, dude. Damn it,
Interesting,
this is
okay.
this
Okay,
is really
tricky.
hard. This is a tricky one. Okay. So, who is firmly against putting Taiwan top 12? Who's firmly against putting Norway in top 12? Who really
Yeah,
believes
I'm
Norway should be in top
I-
12?
I'm against
I
that
don't
one.
think
I
they
have
are.
them. Yeah, I have them in D and Q, so I don't see a world where they
Okay.
go top 12.
Yeah.
Who's firmly against China going up to top 12?
China, man, the four player roster, it's so tough. Like those
Anybody
players are real.
else?
They
Those players are
could.
really
they
good,
can
but-
get there, but like, I don't oppose that, but still.
Okay, who is firmly against Finland going to top 12? Okay, who's firmly against Chile going to top 12?
Probably. I mean, I'm saying
Okay.
that as I put them in D and Q at first, but like, still,
Okay,
I don't
okay.
think they make it up to top 12.
Who is firmly against Canada going up to top 12?
Oh man, I'm really getting the hate.
Okay. So as far as I know, nobody has an issue with Finland, and only one person has an issue Nobody has an issue with Finland and Taiwan, and only one person has an issue with China.
I
So it
think
seems
we
like
go
it's most
Taiwan
likely-
for love of the game.
You want to do Taiwan? Everyone okay with
Yeah.
Taiwan?
You know what?
Like-
Taiwan. Yeah, let's go
Taiwan is
Support our
fine by
boys.
me.
Okay, sounds good. We'll do that then. Boom. Taiwan is there.
The
and,
goats are back.
The goats are back.
So we
And-
need to bump one down from C tier into DNQ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Norway probably
think
seems
it's
to be
Norway.
consensus.
I would probably put Norway.
I would put Norway as well.
Yeah. Okay. Norway it is then.
Yeah, we have a lot of. Oh, you're the only person who has put them in qualifying. The rest of us are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all
Norway.
DNQ for Norway, so that's an easy one.
Fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Cool.
and
So that's not a difficult one then.
as stated earlier, I'm fine with you guys keeping France and DNQ. Like, it's they got they got everything to prove. So I wanna, you know,
You want to hype them
I-
up? You want to hype your boys
Yeah,
up?
I want to
for
hype up
B
my
tier?
boys. I want to show them that I firmly believe in them. But I'm honestly fine with keeping France and DNQ.
You know, from my experience as a coach for Kazakhstan, you know, having high hopes for your team, honestly, do it in NX Fireway. Just actually hype them down, if one could say so. Because
Yeah.
but yeah, it's up to
I
you.
mean, I see where you're going with this, but in my case, it's not so much like having too high of hopes. I mean, yeah, I have them top 12. That's really a bit of trolling. Like, objectively speaking, they're more likely to be in the C tier, even for me as a French supporter. But it's like they're new players. They're in there to gain experience and potentially form the future of like the top French players. So I just want to give them this extra little confident boost and show them that one of us believes in them and believes that they have potential to be better than the older players.
I mean, I have modest hopes for Finland. They didn't even bring me in as a coach.
You
I'm
man,
playtest.
absolutely outrageous.
Unlucky. Outrageous.
Yeah.
Backstabbed.
Okay, so does everybody have their tier list all sorted out? It seems
Yes.
like we do. Anything else you guys want to shift up before we lock this in as our final tier list? Anything?
I think we're good.
I'm
good. Like the
pretty
only thing is that
happy.
maybe I could swap Canada with Ukraine, but you know what? I
Whoa.
believe in Ukraine. Like I still want to have that one hot take with Canada DNQ, and I kind of believe in Ukraine. So
He needs to
there's
be
that.
based for something.
Yes, yes.
valid. Okay. Alrighty. So lock this in. Put your screenshots in. All that good stuff. These are your final 3WC predictions now, and that is going to be it here from us. It has been so much fun getting all this done. It's nice to have a nice like new set of people to do this with, considering I've been doing this, it's my third year in a row now doing this, and this is my first time ever leading it. I think Dio did it twice in a row last time.
You got one more in you.
And now I managed to take the reins now with a bunch of new people. It's awesome to have a bunch of new faces in the prediction stream. So thank you all so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. Do you guys have anything to say before I head this off and outro us out?
Well, thank you for hosting, first of all. And yeah,
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
I had
That was fun.
I had tons of fun with you guys. Honestly, it was great debating, and we have like big disagreements on some of these teams, and that makes it just funnier. So
For
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
really great experience, and yeah, thanks Shiba for hosting it, and thanks everybody for watching, of course.
Like
Alrighty,
the debating
all
as
good.
well. Like we were here for like 2 hours, maybe even longer, and I had so much fun for these 2 hours. I actually forgot to eat, and I should do this now because it's 1 a.m. and I didn't have my lunch. Like, yeah, I was like so locked in. So yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I called
That's
off work
good.
for this, and it was nice meeting you all.
Yeah, it was great.
Nice.
great.
Yeah, it's good to hang out with everyone too. Nev, anything else to say?
I got nothing extra.
Sweet. Good. I'm glad we all feel the same way. That's awesome. Alrighty, before we close off quickly, guys, banners. Eat your banners, bro. Go get your banners to root for your 3WC countries. I know I'm going to be doing that for the big UK. You guys should also do it for your own countries or any team that you have particular rootings for. It also helps donate to the amazing prize pool to give the competitors the prize that they deserve for earning their spots here at the 3-Digit World Cup 2025. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you to Hubba, Leiden, Nev, and Subarima for joining me here for this tier list. Once again, it's been a ton of fun. Had some funny laughs, had some crazy base takes, the lot. It's been great. Thank you all so much for watching. Eat your banners, and we'll see you guys soon for the first ever qualifier results. Well, not the first ever, the qualifier results. Duh. The qualifier results here for 3WC 2025 next week. I've been Shiva, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
See ya, guys.
Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.